One more for the road here, ladies and gentlemen. One more time in 2021. I could not think of a better way to go into 2022 by talking with four of my guys, four of the staples of SportsWire Radio, and the reasons we are the number one global radio station. And there's a lot to talk about here. There is no rest for the wicked. There is no days off because we're going to be talking all the latest happenings here in the world of sports. And who knows, maybe even a few people will chime in and wish us a happy new year. Stay tuned for that. But obviously here with me is Patrick Patty of the Talking Rivals show, also an esteemed author. They are the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals. Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter show and the Brute Force Brad Weiss, the legendary SJC Golden Eagle, coach of our Plainview JFK Hawks Boys Junior Varsity team, also Level Up and Lower Nets. And I want to say it one more time. Guys, how are we doing in 2021?
Happy New Year.
Doing good. Happy New Year.
Almost. Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, Happy New Year, and also Happy New Year to many of our UK friends because it is New Year there. And I want to thank our DJ Dale for doing a great job by leading us in here. We got over 3 hours of his tunes from the 80s. We had a lot of people tuned in from England. So I want to thank Dale. Also want to thank Neil Villapiano for giving us a little New Jersey Devils breather. So away from the football talk and the 80s tunes, we got a few Devils thoughts in there. Devils are playing well. So shout out to Neil Villapiano for giving us a nice lead in. But guys, I'm almost tempted to ask, first off, do you have any New Year's resolutions for 2022?
None that I'm going to keep.
Live life.
World, I don't know what it is, but I figured I'd at least throw it out there.
Less
I might have to
social
give you the Belichick answer.
Yeah, right.
Just had a good week
Less
there.
social media, I think.
It's not a good week to ask.
Okay, fair
That's the
enough.
Belichick.
We're on to Cincinnati.
Fair enough. I was expecting
We're on
somebody to give me
Cincinnati.
something. I figured somebody would give me something funny, but listen, I know it's been a tough year, but obviously I'm looking forward to 2022. Let's hope at least on the sports end we'll get a good year of it. Obviously, we got some Jets talk, we got some Giants talk, a lot of big NFL games. The Brew Force has posted on Instagram. He's got some upset specials, so very curious about that. So a lot to get into with that. I mean, almost then, you know what? I'm going to go right into it because I know a lot of people, who knows what their mindsets are going to be like, how long they're going to stay with us because people could be drunk, there could be a party. So the Brew Force, I'm very curious about it because you did talk about you had some upset specials. I'll go into college football later because Chris, unfortunately, his Michigan Wolverines, it's not their day, and they looked like kind of what I thought they might have been, a paper tiger. But we'll get to that later on toward the end of the show. But the
It's
Brew
this guy's
Force...
fault.
It could be. Listen, when Justin, an Ohio State guy, picked Michigan, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Are we sure? But listen, that's here nor there. We'll get into that in a little while. But the Brew Force, you got me very curious, and a lot of people, I'm sure, are very curious on Instagram because of the fact you got the alarm there. It almost reminds me, for our wrestling fans, of when Monday Night Raw used to open up in the mid-'90s at the old Manhattan Center, and they used to open up with an alarm clock, and the alarm would go off, and everybody would get out there, and Vince McMahon would go, "Welcome to Monday Night Raw," and the Brute Force has got almost that Monday Night Raw-looking alarm there with the siren. So give me the upset special, upset alert, whatever you want to call it at this point. I mean, what are you exactly thinking, and what are you exactly picking for those that might be watching this?
Well, Tom, I don't know. You want me to keep it secret until we get to the games? You want me to go right into it? Because
I don't know. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do because I don't know what people's attention spans are going to be like because it is New Year's Eve. And
Well, how many upsets do you have?
Oh, there's a bunch.
That was my next question.
Oh, there's a lot.
So I'll tell you what, the Brute Force, give me one right now. Give one to almost open it up. That
Just
way,
to
some
tease
people
it.
that are drunk or getting drunk, they could almost digest it. And then later on, maybe some people will come in and out. That's what I kind of have a feeling the night's going to be like. So give me one of those upset alerts.
Man, there's so many to choose from. I gotta pick one. I guess I should just go with the Brute Force special, which I think a lot of people know what team I like to pick in upsets. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the Detroit Lions. That is right, I said. The Detroit Lions are one of those teams. Put on the sirens. Wee, wee, wee. Yeah.
Like I said, I almost should have did the Vince McMahon where Vince McMahon used to open up Monday Night Raws. He would have a bow tie on and a suit. I should have came on with the suit and said, "The Brute Force, give me your upset alert." No, I didn't do that, so I'm not prepared. But tell me, why are you picking the Detroit Lions?
Well, because there's a few reasons why I'm picking the Detroit Lions. Number one, I think Jared Goff is going to be back. That gives me signs for them to be a little bit better this week. And you know what? They almost won that game last week against the Falcons. To John Gonzalez's point, who was telling me, Brad, stick to it, stick to it. And I said, no, with Boyle at quarterback, I said, no, I can't do it. And I was right, even though it came down to the very, very end where the Lions could have won the game. But this week with Jared Goff, they're going up to Seattle, and Seattle's checked out. They've clearly checked out. They've given up on the season. And I think that Russell Wilson's just ready to find his new place. I think DK Metcalf might even want out soon. So I think the Seattle Seahawks are just done. And Chris, you'll smile when I say this. The more losses for the Seattle Seahawks, the better for our New York Jets. And that's exactly what
like that.
I hope he's right. Lions are going to win.
Wow, okay. The Brute Force is going on a limb here. He's saying the Lions over the Seahawks, but I almost have to back the truck a little bit. In the words of Lee Corso, and saying, not so fast, my friend, but is it really an upset when a 2-12-1 team beats a 5-10 team? I mean,
they're the underdog.
That's exactly why I disagree with Brad. I don't think it's that big of an upset, honestly. And granted, I do need to correct Brad. Jared Goff's doubtful. He's not likely to play. It's going to be Tim Boyle.
He don't care. He doesn't care.
I mean, I
don't even know
Jared Goff being back
right now, but
I still think, regardless, it's not that crazy of an upset that you might make it out to be. Seattle's not good.
Listen, I'm just going with the numbers here, and everybody's favoring the Seahawks. And that's why I'm saying there's a lot of upsets this week based on what people are projecting. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's fair to say there's a lot of upsets.
Seattle's favored. So from a spread standpoint, you're 100% right. But I don't think it's really all that crazy. I really could see Detroit winning this game.
Listen, I think at the very least, Detroit's covering 7.5.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. But, I'm just saying, the majority of people out there, and obviously the bettors out there, are all looking at numbers, and they're saying, well, Seattle's the favorite team.
I've actually become a little bit interested in that. So, I'm looking at it here, 42.5. That has to be an under, guaranteed, right? That has to be an under.
Thomas is calling this game in tonight. I can see it.
I don't know, the Brute Force. I'm
still the under in Detroit.
I think under. It's got to be an under. Listen, I watched Seattle last week against the Bears, and that was a horrendous game. I think I got lampooned for you were actually waiting for that game. I'm like, yeah, I kind of wanted to see who would win that game. It was kind of an interesting ending, but the weather there, the conditions. I agree the Seahawks maybe have mailed it in, but I'm trying to fathom here. A 2-12-1 team that's played a little bit better in the second half beats a 5-10 team. That's not that big of a stretch. The Brute Force. I was expecting something.
I was expecting the Jets over the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that. I don't want to spoil it.
You got to be a little more patient, Tom. I said, we'll start with the appetizers, and we'll get to the better stuff later. That's all we're doing.
Somebody's had a few drinks before he came on today.
I almost got to ask them. So let me throw it out to the rest of the group here. Does anybody see that as an upset? Does anybody see Detroit beating Seattle? Because at this point, I don't think that's that far-fetched anymore.
It's not that it's far-fetched, but there are 7.5-point dogs. That's kind of a lot. So
if Goff is playing, that's not that far-fetched. But if it's Boyle, the quarterback,
well, he played last week, right?
Yeah, that's a legit upset.
Yeah.
And I gotta get a shout out in very quickly, because if I don't get this shout out, I will guarantee you I'll hear it the first thing when the ball drops. Our athletic director for Five Towns College, Matt Gercio, who is a huge New York Jets fan, is actually watching here, so he would like a shout out. So Matt, I'm gonna do it right off the bat. I was gonna let the guys speak, but I know you're a New York Jets fan. You're probably waiting and eagerly what the Brute Force has to say on that game later on. So also, most importantly, though, Happy New Year to my friend. Obviously, thank you for all of your support over the past few years, and obviously looking forward to many more great things with Five Towns College. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to continue to spotlight all the great things that the athletics program does. And again, please follow the Five Towns Sound on Instagram at 5Towns_sound. Also, Matt Gershio on Instagram at FTCAD. So make sure you do those things as well. So sound on, Matt. So I hope that you're going to watch us for as long as you can. And thank you for all of your support over the years. And maybe give us a thought or two on some NFL games. I know you're waiting eagerly for us to give us some thoughts on some other games. But for you guys here, then anybody else have a thought or two on the Lions and Seahawks and this sort of upset alert from the brute force?
I agree that Seattle's checked out. Russell Wilson's already looking forward to wherever they're going to go, wherever he's going to go play next year. I think this is a team that's going to go big time rebuild after this year. I think this offseason is going to be a reboot, whatever you want to call it. So I think changes are coming in Seattle. So I could definitely see them losing even their last two games, not just this week. I could see them definitely losing next week too. So it's not far-fetched, but it's still an upset because they are 7.5-point favorites, right?
Justin, jump in. I see Justin's kind of like bobbing and weaving as a boxer would.
Yeah, I think the one thing that does concern me from Detroit's standpoint is that they are the worst rushing defense in the NFL. And over the last couple of weeks, we've really seen the best of Rashad Penny. And, while Russell Wilson's not putting up gaudy numbers and, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett have been underwhelming this year, they've been running the football a lot better. And, I think, Penny has been one of the more disappointing players from a health standpoint because he was a first-round pick out of San Diego State. Anytime he's healthy, he's a very productive player, but his issue has been staying on the field. And so you go into this matchup where he's coming off, I believe it was like 120-something yards, last week against Chicago. There's opportunities for him to run up over 100-plus yards and maybe score one or two touchdowns, and that could be the only thing that presents the biggest challenge for Detroit in this game besides, maybe not having Jared Goff. But then again, Tim Boyle played competently last week, in a close game against the Atlanta Falcons. So, to me, it's really a toss-up game, to be honest. But they're gonna have to stop the ground game. They really are.
I think the better way to phrase this game than 7 points is a little high. That's where the brute force. Now the brute force, if you put it in betting terms, that's where upset alert would have made much more sense.
Yes.
And Matt Gershio wants me to tell everybody that he interned with the Jets. Yes, I forgot about that, Matt. The first thing that was on my mind was thinking about when you interned for the Jets. Actually, it was a good year when you interned for the Jets. Back in 2002, we won the AFC East. So at least you did bring us some good luck. Maybe we should have you in the Jets organization. You could bring that success we've had at Five Towns over to the Jets. So thank you for bringing it up. And Matt also says, let's go Giants. I mean, Bears-Giants is like Lions-Seahawks, Matt. I mean, do I really want to spend time on it? I'm sure we'll run into it later on here. But
I have a question about that game, though.
Okay, go ahead, jump in.
What do you root for if you're a Giants fan? Because you own both picks.
Ooh.
Either way, it works out, I think, right?
But when you win, but you lose because if the Bears win, that's what their sixth win, I believe.
Yeah, sum up the Giants season though perfectly. If you win, you lose.
Let me throw something out there.
You win.
Let me throw something out there.
It goes both ways. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good, interesting one. I thought about that early in the week when I saw that was the matchup. I was like, wait, what are they rooting for?
All right, so let me throw something out there, though. In that matchup, I'm going to throw something out there, and maybe that gets to your point. So we know the situation with the Giants. From what we've all read, Joe Judge is coming back, right? But with the Bears, I'll throw it out there. Let's say they win Sunday. They win the last game of the season against the Vikings. Does Matt Nagy come back? It's the usual. They get hot at the end of the season. They look at it and say,
crazy. Call me crazy.
No.
I could see the McCaskey family bringing him back. I could see a scenario.
See what I mean?
I don't agree with it.
My point.
I think they need to fire Matt Nagy yesterday.
Right.
With that being said, I can certainly see a scenario where they win their last couple of games, and I think their last game is against
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Against Minnesota?
They can win that game. They could definitely win that game.
Let's see a scenario. Especially who's quarterback in Minnesota?
Is Drew Brees available?
The Oregon State great, Sean Mannion.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, and get back to the Giants for a second, guys. I don't think it's set in stone that Judge and Jones are coming back next year. We haven't heard that from management yet.
That's true.
So you never know. If they lose to Chicago, and then
I think Mara's loyal to a fault, though. I think
you're
Judge,
right, but we haven't heard it from him yet. When I hear it from him, then I'll say I'll feel better not better, but I'll feel like they're coming back. Because now we didn't hear from him.
And Matt Gershiel wants to remind me that Matt Nagy is a Delaware Blue Hen. So that might be one thing in his favor, I guess, from the local end of it. Then I've also got shout-outs from Frank Curto. Frank has been with us before. Of course, Frank has done a phenomenal job covering the New York Rangers. And one of these days, Frank, I promise you will spend some time on the blue shirt. So Happy New Year. Thank you for your listening to my recording for you. Steven Saperstein is out there, and Steven Saperstein. I'm surprised you're actually able to watch this, Steve. That's an inside baseball joke. But obviously, all kidding aside, Steve is a New York Jets fan. He's kind of laughing at the Giants discussion. But, well, for a change, it actually might be okay to be a Jets fan these days. And then Matt Gershiel again jumps in and says, when you're at a Giants game, you don't watch these games. I don't know what that means, but there ain't much to watch when it comes to Giant games these days. So
boring.
Those are some of those things.
Unwatchable.
Yeah, they're very unwatchable. I mean, I'll leave it at that. So obviously, I mean, a lot to dissect there when it comes to the Bears and Giants. I mean, I'm almost to throw it out there. I mean, over under 37. That's another one that screams to me under, or am I missing something here?
That's 3-0 written all over it.
Yeah,
Brad, I'm looking at Brad Weiss. We got to get Brad Weiss in here because Brad Weiss is kind of like bobbing and weaving, almost like he's back on the court. Jump in, the Brew Force.
Well, obviously, when you were talking about Matt Nagy and Justin was saying that he has a chance to stay, I mean, I just, listen, can I see what Justin's talking about? Yes. But that's just like saying Adam Gase should have stayed a Jets coach. Like, come on.
God.
That's ridiculous. There's no way they can keep this guy.
I didn't say I believe it. But
Chicago is a big market. Like, you cannot make these fans miserable even longer with him as the coach. Like, you just can't do it. And if they do, it's a major embarrassment. I might even call them the dumbest team in football instead of the Falcons or the Jaguars at this point if they do that. So that's just ridiculous. And then on the Giant game, I'm actually with Justin. I could see this being like 9-6, something like that. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. But I will say this is not one of my upset games. This is going to be a Chicago Bears win. I do see them coming out with the victory. No matter what the score is, I think they win the game.
But the Bears beating the Giants or the Giants beating the Bears, they're literally like the same team. So you can't call it upset either way.
Yeah, I don't think there's
Hold on. We're going by the numbers here. Right? We're going by the betting here, okay? People are going to bet on the Bears. They're not going to bet on those Giants.
And Nick Foles is quarterbacking for the Bears.
Still. Who's quarterback with the Giants?
Glennon, right?
I don't think they've announced a starter, but I think it's going to be Mike Glennon. Exactly. It's ugly. It's awful.
I would still take Nick Foles in a heartbeat.
I would agree with you on that.
I mean, good Super Bowl MVP.
Listen, I take Drew Brees at this point. I mean, listen, you got the Drew Brees jersey on
too, but he likes what he does. He doesn't want to have to get off his couch.
Well, he's not getting hit anymore. Listen, he's gotten paid a lot of money and he's not getting hit. I mean, anybody else want to add anything on Bears and Giants? Because this is a game I really don't want to spend any more time on.
There's nothing I will now.
That's my New Year's resolution.
Fantasy-wise, you
want the Giants.
That's a good one. You know what, Patrick? That's why you're an esteemed author. That's a good one. Listen, that was brilliant. Listen, I mean, he basically nailed it out of the
your brain right there.
Doesn't want to talk anymore about the Giants. Listen, can't blame you on that. And
there's nothing to talk about.
And the Brew Force, I want to give a shout out to your mom because your mom is watching. So I want to make sure that we get her a huge shout out because she's always pushing us stuff, always sharing our posts on Facebook.
I'm just gonna say, well, we'll get to it eventually, but my mom's got a thought on one of the games, and she made sure to educate me to pick a certain team. So she's got.
I'm excited. I had a feeling tonight was going to be good because And for those who are watching this, I put out a huge automated robocall out there, they call them. And I put it out to a lot of people. That's why I'm looking at the eyeballs on Facebook now. Usually it's like, I don't know if I'm talking to anybody. Now I see a lot of people tuned in. So I might have to do that every week. I might have to go out there and just spend and just blast it out to, I have 2,000 phone numbers in my phone. If I put 2,000 numbers out there for an automated call, I guarantee you, we're going to get even more eyeballs than we already do. So I can clearly see this is going to be an interesting day. But I do want to go over one game that's not an upset alert that I think for people that are tuned in now that might be curious about a game I think that's got a lot on the line, a lot of implications for. And I'm going to go right off the bat on it. That's the Chiefs and Bengals. Chiefs right now, 5-point favorites. 51 is the over-under. Obviously, the Chiefs are the hottest team in the NFL right now. Bengals had a statement when Bengals were in the driver's seat in the AFC North, and I want to open it up to everybody. I see Justin nodding his head here. He's very happy to talk about this game. So let's go right into it. I mean, Justin, give me your thoughts here. Chiefs and Bengals. Chiefs 5-point favorites. 51's the over-under. But the way Joe Burrow played last week, I mean, maybe this is a toss-em game.
So who was it on this station weeks back that said the Chiefs were still the favorites despite their struggles to be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl? That'd be me right here. Even at 3-4, I never gave up on Kansas City. I fully believed that they were going to turn this ship around, and boy, have they ever. Their defense is playing out of control, and they are above and beyond everybody else in the AFC. And, this is going to be a really interesting matchup against Cincinnati, with Burrow, breaking the Bengals record of 525 passing yards in a game. Breaking the great Boomer Esiason's record, but but Baltimore might have one of the worst secondaries in all of football, and it clearly showed because John Harbaugh has dealt with a ton of injuries on the back end. Jamar Chase was getting open left and right. T. Higgins was getting open left and right. Joe Mixon was running down their throats. It's not going to be like that for Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow is going to have to really take what's given to him in this game because Kansas City's pressure, especially with Chris Jones and Frank Clark, they really have turned it up and have made life difficult on the quarterback. And, right now, despite the loss of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they're a well-oiled machine on offense. They're humming. They're going to get Travis Kelce back from the 1-week COVID absence. You have Tyreek Hill, who's going to cover him. And Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. So, I mean, this says high scoring written all over it, but I just have a hard time seeing Cincinnati being ready for a matchup like this. And they've been a roller coaster team. Anytime they come off this big win, they have this really weird loss. I mean, this is the same team that's destroyed the Ravens, beating up on the Steelers, something that they don't do, even though the Steelers aren't good this year. But they lost to the Jets. So, I mean, it's kind of still difficult to figure out what the Bengals are and what Joe Burrow is in his second year. As great as he's played, he's still had his clunkers, and you're kind of like not sure if he's truly ready for this big moment yet. Patrick Mahomes, is ready for this big moment, and so is everybody else on that Chief roster.
John Gonzalez has chimed in, and shout out to John because John also shared our video here for Facebook, and John makes a great point here, and I'll get to it for some of the guys here. He says if the Bengals win this game, this would be a signature victory for them. Yeah, you know what? You're beating the two-time defending AFC champions and have been to the championship game the last 3 years. That's an excellent point. Patrick, I see you kind of nodding in agreement. What do you think?
I like the Bengals in this game.
Okay, tell me why.
I think that I respect Justin's point of view, but I don't think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the game right now. I think their defense has been carrying him, and quite frankly, I don't trust Mahomes to make the
big play.
I don't trust him not to throw an interception in this game. He's going to make one of those head scratching plays where he's going to try to do a little too much, and you're just going to be like, wait, if he pulls it off, it's going to be a great Patrick Mahomes play, but if he doesn't, it could be a pick six. And I really don't think that you can cover Higgins and Jamar Chase at the same time. I mean, I understand that the Ravens don't have exactly that much depth at defensive back last week, but and without Helaire, I think that they're gonna. Tyreek Hill presents a matchup problem, but I think Joe Burrow, for some reason, I think this might be not his coming out game, because last week was his coming out game, but this is his look. I'm steady. I'm a reliable franchise quarterback. I'm not going to give you the ups and downs from week to week. I think this is where he puts it together and shows that, you know what, this is their signature win.
You know what? It's a fair point. I mean, fair point. And Chris, I mean, give me your thoughts here on this game. Bengals, Chiefs, and on paper, these teams are very similar, but there's one thing why I'm going to go with Kansas City here. Cincinnati's home record. For a team that wants to go deep into the postseason and really be serious, 4-4. Again, I know New England's had the same problem, but for a team like Cincinnati, they've been very helter-skelter this year. 4-4 at home kind of has me a little bit concerned about this game here. But, Chris, give your thoughts here on the Red-Hot Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals, and what do you think here?
I think, like Patrick said, the defense has been carrying this team for this long hot streak they've been on. I think they've only given up 20 points since week 5, I think maybe 3 times. The rest they've been, 9 or 10 points a game. So I think the defense is going to shut down Cincinnati. Not shut them down to 10 points, but they're not going to give up the points that we seen last week.
Yeah, over 40.
Yeah,
Good point.
And the thing on offense that's really been hurting Kansas City is the secondary and third targets that they have. Of course, Kelsey and Tyreek Hill are they're monsters. They're going to give you a monster game all the time. It's after that. It's the Pringle. It's the Hardman, those guys that haven't really had any big games. I mean, last week was the first time they got involved a little bit more, and maybe that was because Kelsey wasn't there. But before that, they've really not done much. So I think that's where Kansas City has to, for them to, I think, take that next step. I think they have to get those guys involved more. You got to get Hardman and Pringle. Those are the guys that got to get, because Kelsey, like I said, Kelsey and Hill are just going to do their thing.
We spoke about Kelsey after the Charger game. I mean, there's no question.
You guys unstoppable, right?
Yeah,
and Hill too. Hill, you're going to give him a short little pass. He's going to turn it into a 40, 50-yard gain. So, but that I think is going to be the difference. So let's see if Kansas City can do that, along with, of course, them keeping their defense playing as well as they have. And I think they will. I think they did this last year too, and the year before. They kind of started a little slow defensively, and then, then they rode it for the rest of the season.
And a few other comments I got to get in here. And Matt Gershio wants to point it out, because I'm an Islanders fan, and Chris will appreciate that. Rangers won in a shootout. So, Matt, we'll bring it up because you're the athletic director of Five Towns College. Otherwise, I would have just glanced over that. But you've done a lot to support the station, so I'm going to definitely mention that. And then John Gonzalez chimes in also and says he doesn't trust the Bengals yet. But you said this could be a signature win for him, so I'm a little confused on that. He then says Cincinnati has to prove it. And then Matt Gershio also brings up that the Buccaneers are going to win it all again. Come on, guys. I don't know, Matt. I mean, we'll get to that in a little while. But, I mean, have you watched the Green Bay Packers lately? I mean, Aaron Rodgers is on a different level right now. But I'm sure we'll get to that. And also he laughs at my Rangers thought because he knows we're Islanders fans. And, of course, Matt is a long-standing New York Rangers fan. I think Matt's uncle, if I'm not mistaken, worked for the Rangers in 1991-92, if I remember correctly. So Matt will probably make sure I get chimed in on that or chided on that if that was a different take on a different year. But the Brute Force, obviously we've heard the guys take on the Chiefs and Bengals. Of course, Billy Heenan, Cincinnati Bengals. But again, interesting matchup. Two teams I think are parallel, but yet different in so many ways. I mean, give me your thoughts on who do you think comes out with the W. I almost have to think, though, that the winner of this game outright is just going to clear it. And even as a bonus, do you think this will definitely be an over here rather than an under?
So I'll start with that question. I do think this is going to be an over. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. But to the who's going to win, I do want to deeply apologize to my good friend and St. Joe's assistant coach, Billy Heenan. Because I've been on their bandwagon. I've been, saying Bengals the last couple of weeks, and it's time for me to hop off for a week. I do think that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win, and I actually, and this is something crazy because you guys know how harsh I was earlier in the season with the Kansas City defense, And now I'm going to say it. I think the Kansas City defense is going to be the best unit on the football field this week. I think that they are going to do enough. They are going to make plays. And quite frankly, they've proved that over weeks of time. I mean, I'm going to read you the official stat here. Since week 8, they have allowed the fewest points a game, 13 points a game, as a defense in the NFL since week 8. So that is a large sample size since week 8. So they have proven it. They have proven that they deserve our respect. And I do think that they will be that best unit on the field, and they will lead Kansas City to the win. Even though, like I said, I still think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I do think this Cincinnati Bengals is going to move the ball up and down the field and score some touchdowns. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to come down to which defense is going to step up, and I'm putting my money on Kansas City.
Let me make one point in favor of the Cincinnati Bengals, and this could be for anybody, and I see the brute force looking at me, so I'll go with him first. Is it fair to say, though, that the Kansas City Chiefs haven't faced a quarterback right now in a zone like Joe Burrow is?
I think that's fair. I think they've seen some other quarterback. Like earlier in the season, they saw Herbert, not the last time, but the time before that when he was like red hot. They saw, some other decent quarterbacks. Obviously they missed Aaron Rodgers, which was a big one for them because
Josh Allen you could throw in there. I mean, that would be the one I could throw.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's Josh a fair statement. It's fair.
That's why that was the one I could throw out there.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. No, that's a good point.
Anybody feel any differently on that? I mean, the Chiefs haven't faced anybody recently like Joe Burrow on this run. Anybody? I mean, I know Daniel Jones is thrown in there.
No.
I mean, I could have said Daniel Jones. I mean, certainly Daniel Jones has got to be the hottest quarterback in the league when he's in there. But in all kidding aside here, I could see that. I kind of think Kansas City is going to win just because it's Kansas City and the way they're playing right now. And I do kind of agree with John Gonzalez. I don't quite trust the Cincinnati Bengals. And even though somebody has to win the AFC North, I still think Kansas City comes away with it. And there's a lot on the line here. Kansas City can pretty much shore up home field in that number 1 seed. Cincinnati can shore up the AFC North. So there is a lot on the line here in this game. And another game that I think is a very, very intriguing matchup, speaking of the AFC North. And no, I'm not going to go to Browns Steelers just yet. Not yet, the brute force. But the other game that I think is very interesting, Rams and Ravens, a couple different reasons. Obviously, again, still a lot on the line for both teams. Rams are 4.5-point favorites. 46.5 is the over-under here. I mean, Justin, give me your thoughts, because I know you've talked a lot in our SportsWire radio group about the Ravens and even this matchup. I mean, what do you expect here? Rams are looking good. Ravens, again, have been unfortunately decimated with some injuries and some questionable calls we've spoke about here on the show. I mean, what do you make of this matchup?
I hate to say it because I like Lamar Jackson a lot. I think on Sunday they're better off with Tyler Huntley on the field. I just don't know how healthy Lamar Jackson is with that ankle injury. And to be quite honest, if he's not 100%, he's one of those guys who just can't just sit back and drop back and throw the ball 40 times. He's a guy who needs to make plays with his legs. And if he is limited in any capacity, that gives free reign for Von Miller and Aaron Donald to get after the quarterback, play after play. And that's not the recipe you want. It's not a great offensive line that the Ravens have. It's an underwhelming rushing attack when you're talking about the running, the actual running backs like Devontae Freeman and Latavius Murray. So, they're in trouble if Lamar Jackson's not 100% and he's the one out on the field. However, if Tyler Huntley's out on the field, then, he's healthy. He was just dealing with COVID and, he's off the list, obviously. We saw what he did in the Green Bay game, the way he almost willed that team brought that team on his back and almost made the comeback against Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, Tyler Huntley's been very impressive. So I don't know what to make from an offensive standpoint for Baltimore. And on the Rams offensive side of the ball, Baltimore has nobody who could cover Cooper Kupp. Nobody. And this even screams of a situation where Odell Beckham Jr. and Van Jefferson could have monster games, because those two on the outside are going up against, we just talked about it the way we talked about it with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, against very weak corners. And they're not going to be able to cover on the outside. They're not going to be able to, cover in the slot. So their passing defense is going to get shredded by Matthew Stafford. I don't think to the tune of 500 yards, but you could see high threes for Matthew Stafford. And the Rams also now have a balanced running attack the way Sonny Michel has been, carrying the ball, without Darrell Henderson in the lineup. And I don't know how much he'll play, but I got to give a huge shout out to Cam Akers being activated, and he's going to be the backup running back 5 months after Achilles injury and surgery. Crazy. The dedication to get back and work that fast to be able to heal up and, play in an NFL game. I'm sure he'll get a couple of snaps in the last couple of games of the year, but you got to give a huge shout out to Cam for that recovery.
Absolutely. And before I get to that, I want to get to a few other comments because we actually have someone watching us in Sweden. So I want to give them a huge shout. I know we have listeners out there. I told everybody we have listeners in 13 countries. So I want to make sure I recognize Enberg, who says, Happy New Year from Sweden. Happy New Year as well, my friend. Thank you for all your friendship. Also, he says Bengals can't win 3 games in a row. Very fair point on that. Matt Gershio mentions now, Matt's all over the place, but I thank you, Matt, because he's actually watching Cobra Kai season 4 and listening to us at the same time. So I'm happy anybody's listening to us. So he obviously, thank you for that, Matt. He says Terry Silver is back. I don't watch Cobra Kai, Matt. I just watched The Matrix a few times. That's as far as I go on TV stuff. But Matt also says Danny Dimes, obviously Daniel Jones can go back to Duke. Yeah, I mean, he can go back to where he was in the Pinstripe Bowl a few years back. John Gonzalez, also back on the Bengals, says he can never forget Mike White carving up the Bengals. Yeah, that was a while ago. And then Matt Gershio gives the Sweden reference. Well, listen, I'm appreciating that because we have a lot of people out there. We have Turkey, Sweden, we have Italy, we have Canada, France, we have a lot of Australia. Can never forget about Australia. So 13 countries out there. So I want to make sure that we recognize our many friends across the globe. Many, many friends out there. And I cannot thank them enough for their friendship and support. But also going back here, Rams and Ravens. Chris, again, very, very interesting matchup for a number of different reasons. Justin gave us his thoughts. I mean, what do you think happens here in this game? And again, Rams are 4.5-point favorites. 46.5 is the over-under.
Yeah, I think Justin said it right. I mean, the Rams are just going to, I think offensively, I mean, unless Stafford really goes back to his Detroit days, but I can't see that happening because he's actually playing well now. But because this Raven defense is not that good. So the Rams should win this game pretty easily too. With Lamar Jackson, like Justin said, you don't know how he's going to be. He's been out a few weeks now. The ankle didn't look great. I know during practice they showed a couple of videos of him in practice this week, and he was kind of limping a little bit. So, and his whole game is with his legs. So I don't know if that's a good idea to even start him this week. But they have no running game to speak of as well. So I think the Rams are going to win by a couple of scores here. And this might be the end of the Ravens' playoff hopes as well.
Well, because of the AFC North, as Lee Corso would still say,
right?
Not so fast. So stay tuned on that. And
right,
of course,
it depends on the Bengals. If they win and the Ravens lose, but then again, if the Bengals lose, like we were talking, not so fast. Exactly. It's going right down to the last week.
Stay tuned for that. And of course, if the Rams win and the Cardinals lose, Rams clinch the NFC West, which was kind of hard to fathom. I want to say about even 4 or 5 weeks ago, but yet that's a distinct possibility. And I want to give a few other shout outs to the people that are watching us. And John Gonzalez says, get to the Jets game. We'll get to it, John. We'll get to it. Listen, we like to give everybody suspense and wait a little bit. And Jason Facina is also watching us. And of course, Coach Facina is the head coach of the Five-Town Sound men's soccer and women's soccer teams. And obviously, Coach, thank you for all of your support and friendship. And thank you for all you've done for us here with the station. So I can't thank you enough for tuning tuning in. And obviously, I know you have a lot to say, and I'm sure you're a better softball player than the Brute Force Brad was. I didn't want to get that out there because one of the times you called up, we did kind of get that little subtle dig in there. So, no, he appreciates that. Listen, Coach Facina he might be a great soccer coach, but he's maybe even a better softball player. So I'm sure he's not going to appreciate that comment, but I'm sure we'll get to that when the Brute Force jumps in. But Patrick, Rams-Ravens, obviously Rams can win with some help. They clinch the NFC West. We've got the Ravens, and obviously they're kind of in a free-fall. They've got some injuries, and they could even be eliminated from the postseason, or who knows what could happen if they win. But any thoughts here real quick on this matchup?
I agree with what's been said so far. As much as I do not like Matthew Stafford, I'm going to pick him. I just think Sony Michel, I think no one's stopping Cooper.
Well, you know Sony Michel very well, obviously.
Yeah,
you know what he's capable of.
I think he has the most yards rushing in the past 4 weeks. He has over 400 yards rushing. So
wow, who would have guessed that? Even over Jonathan Taylor. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I think he has 425 yards in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So
okay.
I just think that Cooper Kupp against this defensive secondary is a joke. Cooper Kupp's gonna just show up to the field and catch 10 balls and will be on his way. And I think was it 4.5 point spread? I think the Rams win by
46.5 is the over-under.
I can see them winning by 10 easily.
Yeah, you kind of get the sense the way Baltimore's playing, at least in the defensive end, this could be one of those games where the Rams carve them up. So it's a fair point. And to you, the Brute Force, Matt Gershio is kind of on your side a little bit on the softball end because he says Jason Facina, beer league softball. So that's a subtle dig for Mr. Facina. He'll answer that, I'm sure. But the Brute Force, Rams, Ravens, a lot on the line here. Ravens have certainly are in a free-for-all. Some of it is understandably so. I always feel like with the Ravens, since the Dolphins game, that was kind of like the game for me. I was like, you know what? This team might not be that good. And the Rams seems like they've kind of gotten right back on track, and they've got a lot on the line here, as we've mentioned. So give me your thoughts here on this matchup, and what do you think?
Yeah, I this is not an upset pick. This is an obvious one. I think I actually see this game being a blowout, and I see the Rams absolutely destroying the Ravens, and that's actually with Lamar Jackson or not. I see it being a blowout either way. I think this is one of those games that the Rams defense really steps up. They've been good, but I think they're capable of a lot more. I think people kind of see them as a great defense, but they're just playing good. And I think that the more they continue to show, right, some good performances, you're going to have more confidence in them going into the playoffs. So I think this is one of those games for them. And Lamar Jackson, listen, I saw him in a video a day or two. He's limping like crazy. Like the guy could barely move. There's no way this guy's going to play unless something miraculous happens. And even if he does, I don't see this being a good result for him. I think the defense is going to be really good for the Rams in this weekend. I think the offense is going to score. I think Cooper Kupp might even score 2 or 3 touchdowns. So I could see this being a blowout, probably like 38-10. That's
Wow, okay. All right. I mean, listen, it wouldn't surprise me right now. The Ravens, you kind of just get the sense that they may just lose out here.
Ravens are, if you look at their numbers, they're like the best team against the run, but they're the worst team against the pass.
That's basically good for me and my Cooper Kupp prediction. I think he scores 2 or 3 touchdowns.
Makes sense for that.
And interesting note on the Ravens, they've scored 356 points and allowed 356 points. So that's a kind of interesting stat there. So they've essentially been, like you said, very good against the run and not so good against the pass. That would kind of indicate where you are. So obviously that's one game out there. And another game, I know John Gonzalez wants me to get to the Jets, but I'm going to leave that in a little while. We'll save the suspense a little bit, John. I promise you we'll get to Buccaneers-Jets. Don't worry. We will certainly get to that game. But I do want to get to the other team in the NFC West. Again, another interesting matchup here. Cowboys and Cardinals. And the Cardinals obviously have been a hot topic. They start the year 7-0. They're 3-5 since. Everybody seems like they are very down, understandably so, on the Cardinals. And I had brought this up on last Sunday's show. The Cardinals, since November of 2020, November, December, the last 2 years, are 6-9. So clearly they're 12-3, but 6-9 in November and December. And into January, I guess, might have been a game or so played. So clearly the Cardinals might be the definition of pretenders. And the Cowboys usually are the definition of pretenders, but yet they seem like they've righted the ship. So I'm going to go with it here in terms of Cowboys and Cardinals, and I'll go with Justin first. And give me your thoughts here. Dallas is 6-point favorites. 51.5 is the over/under.
Yeah, last week was a real nice get-right game for the Cowboys. I mean, granted, how shorthanded Washington was, but, they came out and they just laid the woodwork immediately, and that game was over, 5 minutes in. And, given what's happened to Arizona over the last month or two, it's kind of unfolded the way I thought it would. And, ever since they lost to Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers was playing without his top 3 wide receivers, Adams, Lazard, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling were all out, and he still found a way to get it done that day. And, ever since then, it kind of brought the Cardinals back to earth. I mean, I know they went 2-1 in the 3-game absence of Kyler Murray with Colt McCoy at quarterback, but something's just not right with Colt McCoy and I mean with Kyler Murray, and you're seeing what not having DeAndre Hopkins really does to that offense. I mean, Christian Kirk is a nice piece to have. He's a good receiver, but he's not to the level of DeAndre Hopkins. And, AJ Green's a player who's way past his prime. He hasn't been all that good. And they're banged up at the running back position. Chase Edmonds and James Conner have dealt with injuries the entire season. So they've been on and off the injury report all year long, and they just have the feel of a team that you get into the playoffs, but be a one and done, like I've been saying for weeks. I just think that Arizona's just not all that good, and the way Dallas' defense is playing, especially with Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs, and having Dexter Lawrence and Randy Gregory back and healthy. I mean, it almost feels like Dallas is starting to turn a corner again, and they're getting hot going into the postseason.
I'm almost about to say it then. How about them Cowboys, according to Justin, then? So it could be one of those games.
Might be their boys this year.
It could be. I mean, listen, the Brute Force, I kind of see you kind of giving a modest reaction at best when it comes to this matchup. I mean, it does kind of point to where Dallas could maybe run away with this game here, considering the Cardinals, the way they've played. And they are kind of the quintessential definition of an imposter team right now. They did clinch a playoff spot, but they certainly ain't going into the postseason with much enthusiasm and much momentum. So give me your thoughts here on Dallas and the Cardinals, and what do you think happens?
Yeah, Tom, can you just tell me who the favorite is in this game, please?
Sure, the Dallas Cowboys, 6-point favorites.
You see it. It's time for another upset alert. All right, it's time for
into this one.
Because right here is another one of those games where, listen, ladies and gentlemen, how about them Cowboys? All right, because guess what? What do we say about them? They are an accident waiting to happen. And you know what, Tom? I said this a few weeks back about those Pittsburgh Steelers when you guys said, 5-game winning streak, and they're doing so, they'll be fine. Guess what? Dallas Cowboys are feeling themselves after last week. They slapped Washington. They're like, we're the best team. We're great. We're flying all cylinders. And guess what? The Arizona Cardinals, even though they've been stinking, guess where Kyler Murray grew up?
Dallas,
Texas. And he has played some of his best games of his career in Dallas. And I'm telling you right now, it might look really bad right now for those Arizona Cardinals. But just wait. The Cowboys are going to be feeling themselves. Kyler Murray is going to go in there. He's going to play one of his best games of the season. And the Cowboys are going to lose. I'm telling you right now, this is what they do. This is all what they're about. The Dallas Cowboys are going to do this, and they're going to make their fans wonder what the hell is going on, because they show you prosperity, and then they crash. And they do it at the best time of year, which is when the playoffs come around. And that is when they're going to do it now, and this will be the beginning.
And John Gonzalez, the Brute Force, he's in full agreement with you. He thinks that the Cardinals are going to bounce back, and he thinks that the Dallas Cowboys will be flat. So apparently John Gonzalez is all in with you, the Brute Force. You got John Gonzalez convinced. He's definitely sold on it. So I can certainly say that that's what Mr. Gonzalez is feeling. But Patrick Chardy, I mean, what do you think here? Cowboys, Cardinals. Cowboys are 6-point favorites. I mean, part of me feels like Dallas is going to blow out Arizona here, and Arizona is just an imposter team. And I'm not saying Dallas is going to go on a huge run in the playoffs, but it does kind of point to the way Dallas is playing. Give me your thoughts.
Other than Matthew Stafford, the other person that I hate in the league more than him is Cliff Kingsbury. This is all about Cliff Kingsbury. He is a fraud. He's a phony. He does not. Chris knows that I've been saying this.
Wow, I mean, when an offense you got to listen.
Cliff Kingsbury is not. He has not built a foundation for success. He's built this up in a gimmicky, gadgety type of way. He is bound for college. He is destined to be a college coach.
Wow. Okay, and I have to say,
Enberg this is not about the Cowboys winning. The Cowboys are just going to trip and fall into this win.
Enberg from Sweden is laughing, and he, I guess, kind of agrees with you, Patrick, on Cliff Kingsbury. So
there you go. In multiple time zones, Cliff Kingsbury is a fraud.
In Sweden, they agree with Patrick Trotty. I mean, you heard it first here. Our fans in Sweden agree with Patrick Trotty. So I mean,
there we go. We got somebody to agree with me.
Well, listen, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one, but.
I just don't think he built something that was sustainable. I don't think he did it from the ground up. I don't think he did it in the trenches. I just think, and I think a little bit of this has to go on Kyler Murray too. I know he was injured part of the year, but look, every team has injuries. I know you lose DeAndre Hopkins. They lost Rodney Hudson, their lineman, for a couple of weeks, but you're number one overall pick. You gotta. I feel like Kyler, and we'll get to Baker later, but Baker too.
Oh, I want to get to him.
Yeah,
they kind of. I mean, Kyler has been playing better than Baker, but that's not saying much. Kyler puts his team on his back.
But who was it in the Sports Wire group that was saying, "Oh well, Baker, there was some questionable call. Was it Justin or Chris? I'm trying to think. In last Saturday's game, it was Green Bay and Cleveland. Somebody in that group said, "Oh, but listen, there was some bad calls the other way." I don't think it was Justin. Somebody said in the group.
I think it was me. Well, when they played Green Bay.
Yes, the last interception
were a little shit.
Unfortunately, he threw enough that you could take two away.
I'm not saying he was good.
He threw 4 interceptions.
Yeah, it was still bad.
I just think that if Kyler wants to be more than a one and done good story in the playoffs, you got to win some games on the road. A big game, right?
Oh, they're going to have to win most likely on the road now because I think it's going to go through the Los Angeles Rams and the NFC West. And before I get to Chris, I want to give a shout out actually to somebody who's Cincinnati Bengals fan in the Brew Force, somebody we know very well, and that is Billy Heenan, of course, assistant coach for our SJC Golden Eagles men's basketball team, because Coach Heenan is watching this. And of course, Coach Heenan, of course, is very well known in Cincinnati Bengals Twitterverse and of course on Instagram and all social media because he is a huge Bengals fan. I'm sure he wouldn't be so happy with some of our picks on the Kansas City Chiefs, but obviously shout out to Coach Heenan. Of course, we'll get to the boys later on here, of course, as they had a huge victory against Baruch. So shout out to Coach Heenan. But Chris, that does bring me to you here in this matchup, Cowboys-Cardinals. I don't know what more else left is to say, but you have a different thought than some of the guys here in this game?
No, my thought is Dallas is rolling right now, and they're going to keep rolling against a team that's going the complete opposite direction. They're going off the rails. I agree with a lot of what Patrick said. Every team has injuries. You can't just use, D-Hop as he's out, so we can't win now. They still have other weapons. I mean, let's get real here. They've been playing most of the season without J.J. Watt as well, right? He got hurt early in the season. So I think Dallas is going to win. Here's my question. What if Arizona, since they already clinched the playoffs, and it looks like they're going to be one and done in the playoffs, is Cliff Kingsbury, is he gone after this year, or do you think he comes back for one more year?
They made the playoffs, right?
Right.
They win 10 games.
Right, they clinched already.
I think the ownership is going to bring him back, but I wouldn't trust Kingsbury not to take a greener pasture job, like a dream job in college. If some college throws $100 million contract at him, is he going to say no?
No, but there's not a whole lot of jobs open right now. Most of those college jobs have already been filled for next year. So, I don't think there's a college opportunity out there right now. I don't think he's on the hot seat at all, but his seat's starting to get very warm. I think of next year as a disappointment. You could certainly see the Bidwell family moving on from Cliff Kingsbury, because this has really not been what they thought they were getting, and he was really, for the most part, an underwhelming head coach at Texas Tech. He had a losing record, so I'm not 100% sure what Arizona saw. I mean, obviously they did. You could only do better after that one disastrous year with Steve Wilkes and Josh Rosen at quarterback, but
they never gave Josh Rosen a chance, though. They gave
they really didn't. But I
hate to die on that hill, but they
right. But and there was no choice. You're taking Kyler Murray the way he had that last year at Oklahoma, the way he played. I mean, you weren't passing on Kyler Murray at number 1 overall.
And I'm looking at it here. I mean, Kingsbury 25-23 with the Cardinals so far, and in college, to Justin's point, 35-40. Did get to 3 bowl games, but again, 35-40 is very underwhelming. And
everybody gets to a bowl game.
All you got to do is win 6 games. All you got to do is win 6 games.
Greg Schiano got to one, and then you hear Greg Schiano's comments. Oh well, it was the hardest week of my life. You guys got like a $10 million payout. What did you think? You were gonna beat Wake Forest?
They had 5 quarterbacks play today for Rutgers.
That's my point.
5 quarterbacks throw a pass today.
Weren't they like 6-7 this year, or 5-7? Whatever.
5-7.
They were 5-7. They originally didn't get a bowl bid, but they were a bowl replacement.
Yeah, that's not good.
It was a good start for Rutgers, but
they were 4-2. I think they were 4-2 at one point, or 4-1. If
that's what happens.
That's what
happens when you start facing the meat of the Big Ten schedule.
Exactly.
When you're playing the Michigans, the Michigan States, the Ohio States, the Penn States.
Even Maryland wiped the floor with them last game of the season. Not to say that Maryland's world beaters. I mean, they did look good in the Pinstripe Bowl, but I mean, Rutgers certainly is a bowl team. And John Gonzalez has chimed in here, and he says Dallas and Arizona will be non-factors in the playoffs, probably. He says he thought that Kingsbury would have been good for the USC job. Yeah, okay, but it's not open anymore. And then he says, Rutgers 5-7 makes the Gator Bowl, laughing my ass off. Yeah, but there was a reason why that was, and essentially the other team couldn't play. That's why they're in the bowl, John. Otherwise,
they were replacement.
Rutgers wouldn't even be in like the I don't know, whatever bowl. Throw a bowl out there. The Citi Field Bowl. If Citi Field had a bowl, Rutgers wouldn't have qualified for
the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl.
The Jimmy Kimmel Bowl. There you go. Listen, whatever. If McDonald's had a bowl, Rutgers wouldn't qualify.
I just saved 15% by switching my insurance.
Didn't Barstool have a bowl sponsor?
Yes, and Barstool's game got canceled because of COVID.
Hey, the Barstool Arizona Bowl or something like that.
This is pretty much on point for them.
Yeah, well, that's probably because Dave Portnoy couldn't find any more places to try pizza. His last video was he tried the $1 pizza. I'm like, well, maybe that's something to do with that. I mean, I know anybody who'd have a $1 pizza, but there is a $1 pizza place. It's on West, I think, 4th, right on the corner of 6th Avenue, right next to Joe's Pizza, ironically, and he tried it. He said it was, a $1 pizza. Maybe he gave that to the players. Who knows? But obviously, that's another game here. And another game I thought that would be interesting for a number of different reasons. And it's interesting because 2 teams that, in a sense, might be going in different directions. And that's the 49ers and the Texans. And I kind of think that this spread is really high here. I mean, I don't know what Vegas was thinking here. 49ers are 12.5-point favorites. 44 is the over-under. But the Texans are playing a little better here the last month. They might have something to play for here. I kind of think the Brute Force, this might be one of those things you have, and you're upset alert. This has to be one of those.
Here we go.
Upset alert. I see him looking at me, so I'm going to it, the Brute Force. 49ers, Texans. Is this one where you're bringing out the siren for the upset alert?
There it comes.
No. I am not. And to be honest with you, the reason why is actually because Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to play. I actually would have considered bringing it out if Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback. But actually, surprisingly, I actually believe in Trey Lance more than him right now. And I think that Trey Lance is going to give the 49ers a better chance of winning. I said it. That's right. So that's what my opinion is on this. And listen, the Houston Texans are playing better. I get that. They're competing. And Davis Mills, listen, the LA Chargers defense made him look like an all-star last week. And, that was embarrassing on their part. But I do think that, they're going to do a solid job there. San Francisco, they're a lot better defense. They'll slow them down. And I actually think Trey Lance's ability is going to help the 49ers have a little more success here this week against the Texans.
And John Gonzalez agrees with you. He thinks the 49ers are going to crush the Texans. I don't know. I kind of think the Texans are going to hang in there. I'm curious.
Texans will hang in, but
jump in, Patrick. Good. So you think San Francisco wins?
No love for Jimmy G, brute force. No love for Jimmy G. Really?
Oh, yeah, listen, and Patrick, I don't know if
he's a good quarterback.
Yeah, but
Patrick, he's been a competent quarterback.
He's a competent quarterback. I'm going to say that. But
the Giants would gladly have him right now. If I'm a Giants fan, I would take Jimmy.
Well, you remember what my take was last week. I said that I would not overpay Jimmy G. I'd rather keep Daniel Jones at a lower price than Jimmy G. I just don't think he's that good and that much of an upgrade.
Oh, listen, I mean, I could understand where you're coming from. I mean, Justin, you've always got something to say. Do you think the 49ers here really do blow out the Texans? Texans have played well the last few weeks. I mean, do you believe in the Texans? What do you think here?
There is no shot that there's no shot that San Francisco blows them out. There's just not.
Okay. All right. That's what I think. Okay.
Trey Lance, well, he is the future of the 49ers, and I do think he's going to be a pretty good quarterback in the NFL. This is not a good spot for him. The Houston defense has really started to pick things up over the last couple of weeks. I mean, we saw what they did to Justin Herbert in that game. I know they were missing. They had gotten back Austin Eckler after Justin Jackson had that monster game the week before. But they were just dominating the Charger offensive line, and Justin Herbert had really no time to throw. I understand that he was missing Mike Williams and whoever the third receiver is, Jalen Guyton, I think it is. So he was really working with only Keenan Allen and Joshua Palmer. But with that being said, the Texans' defensive line was really getting after Justin Herbert in this game. And, over the last three starts, and, I was somebody who was very critical on Twitter about the choice for the Texans to go with Davis Mills going forward. But he's really proved me wrong. And I really think that the Texans have something here, and that they're not going to be I don't think they're going to spend on a quarterback in the first round next year, because I think that they have something with Davis Mills here, this kid out of Stanford, and he's played really well. They had a great rushing performance out of Rex Burkhead.
Yep,
and they're starting to kind of find their identity a little bit, and you kind of see that there's a direction with the Houston Texans, and that they're building towards something. They're building towards the post Deshaun Watson life, where they're gonna roll with Davis Mills. And Davis Mills, I don't know what his ceiling really is going to be. I think he's somebody who could start in the NFL for multiple years, and I think. Well, I don't think the Texans end up winning this game. I think with Trey Lance being the starting quarterback, I think 12 is too big of a number.
Yeah, I just think it's too much. 12 and a half, and he's played the last 3 weeks. He's thrown almost 800 yards, 5 TDs, 1 interception.
Yeah.
Texans have won a couple games in a row. Their record, they've improved in the second half. They've been a different team in the second half. I mean, it's not that far-fetched. I mean, I'm not saying that the 49ers are going to lose the game outright, but I kind of think looking at these teams, I mean, it's a little disrespectful here, 12 and a half. This is not the Jaguars we're talking about.
And Mills has had 5 games where he's had over 70% completion percentage. So, the accuracy is not the issue. He's got 12 touchdowns on the year and, to 9 interceptions. So he's got more touchdowns to interceptions. It's not a great ratio,
I think
but
he was a 4-star prospect, to your point, coming into Stanford. It was just about health and availability.
Exactly. Exactly. And, there's always been that high, promise for Davis Mills. We just never really got to see it. He should have been, the way he came out of high school, he should have been a first-round talent, but it never really panned out like that at Stanford. And I think we're finally seeing somebody who may just be a late bloomer, and he's now starting to grow into his body. He's starting to feel comfortable. And one thing I'll tell you is Davis Mills is terrific footwork. And I think footwork is key when you're talking about a quarterback, and great body language, the way he looks off receivers, the way he goes through his progressions. He does all of that extremely well. And it's no surprise, that a quarterback from Stanford has the brains to be a quarterback in the NFL. I mean, it takes, a lot to get into Stanford. And you could tell Davis Mills is going to be a very smart quarterback in the NFL, and he's going to make good plays. And
I'll tell you what,
he's already got the good mechanics, and I really like what I've seen from him.
You know what? Listen, his completion percentage is almost 67, so that's what you got to focus on. So there's some hope there. I mean, there's some hope there, and I want to shout out a few people that are watching this. And the first one, of course, is Mother Superior. Of course, we all know Mother Superior. Of course, Lynn, a huge Buffalo Bills fan. So shout out to Lynn. Obviously, Lynn, thank you for all of your support and friendship. I did hear some of your jokes on the last Pinstripe Chronicles show with Donald and Bobby Tats. I think that the reference, Lynn, that Donald was saying is that the Staten Island Yankees are not a team anymore. It's actually the Staten Island River Rats. So the Yankees aren't affiliated with Staten Island anymore. I think that was more what Donald's joke was. There was no pun intended joke towards Staten Island. I mean, you can joke about Staten Island and a lot of things, but the baseball team wasn't one of them. But also, shout out to Jason Gordieso. Of course, Coach Gordieso has been a frequent guest here on SportsWire Radio, and of course, a big supporter. Of course, he is the assistant coach of the SJC Golden Eagles men's basketball team. Probably the best well-dressed of the coaches, I would have to say. I think Coach Gordieso, his financial background serves him well. So shout out to Coach Gordieso. Obviously, cannot thank him enough for his friendship and what a job the boys did, especially late in the game against Baruch. And John Gonzalez has chimed in again. He says, Niners could be a problem in the playoffs. Yeah, I think we all think that, but again, it's a matter of what team shows up. And he says he likes Davis Mills, but he's raw. Yeah, well, that's a young quarterback. I mean, that's what you're going to get here. Young quarterback, obviously, that's what you're going to get here in that. So, Chris, any thought here? 49ers Texans, is 12.5 too high, or just 49ers?
It might be a little high depending on Trey Lance because he hasn't played in about 2 months. So, I mean, that's the only thing that's going to slow down San Fran. But I don't think San Fran's going to have any problem winning this game.
Okay.
And you know what? And to go with you guys, the last few games, what the Texans have done, all right, the Chargers, they did beat a good team last week, even though the Chargers are kind of the AFC's version of the Vikings, where you don't know what the hell they are.
I like
the game's close, too.
Right. But before that, the 2 weeks before that, they played Jacksonville, they played Seattle. They lost to Indianapolis 31-0. They lost to us, the Jets.
Yes.
21-14. So I'm not getting too excited about the Texans.
And some of those games were with Tyrod Taylor, though. Like the Jet game was Tyrod Taylor.
The Jet game, yeah. But I'm saying, all right, the last 3 weeks, who'd they beat? They beat the Chargers, Jacksonville, Seattle, and they got blown out by Indianapolis.
Well, but Indianapolis right now arguably might be one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL.
And they shut them out. So I'm just saying, I'm not.
It's a fair point. No, it's a fair point.
Yeah. And listen, Burkhead's not rushing for 100 yards again. That's not happening, especially against San Fran. So
all right, listen, those are all fair points here. So obviously, those are some of the games at the moment. So you are watching, of course, SportsWire Radio. We are one more time here in 2021, and time has certainly flew here. We're already over an hour in. So obviously, a lot of people are tuned in. So clearly, it worked. My magic definitely worked because I have a lot of people tuned in, a lot of people watching and listening. So that certainly means I have to step up my A game in promotion of this. And of course, we are with Patrick Trotty, esteemed author, also the Talking Rivals Show, Chris Pizzea of the Liftoff Jets Show and the Talking Rivals, Justin Gianelli. And Justin, you really stepped the game up. The Mets blanket loved yesterday. The Drew Brees jersey I'm fond of. He's a New Jersey Devils fan. Devils team got a nice win against the Edmonton Oilers, who don't lose in overtime. So big shout out to Justin Gianelli, of course, of the Baseball Banter Show. And of course, the Brute Force Brad Weiss, who's got the 2022 video. So clearly he knows we have people listening in Sweden and the UK and Turkey because it's 2022 over there.
It's so like they're in the future or something.
It's clearly the Brute Force knows our fan base. He knows that we are the only local show that can have 13 countries behind us. So clearly he knows he's doing a great job, of course, with our Plainview JFK Hawks boys junior varsity team. Also, of course, of the Long Island Nets. Of course, also Level Up, our St. Joseph's Island Golden Eagles men's basketball team. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of SportsWire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And of course, if you like what you hear from all of these great shows, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can go to sportnarium.com/play where you can hear the likes of the Talking Rivals, the Liftoff Jets, the Baseball Banter Show, and all of our other great shows here. And I cannot thank everybody enough for supporting us here in 2021 and having us go into 2022 with a lot of momentum with Sportswear Radio. So shout out for Lynn with the Pinstripe Chronicles. I understand that Lynn is going to have her own female sort of Pinstripe Chronicles show in the coming weeks. I think it was, once a week or once a month, whatever the details was, Lynn. I mean, I'm sure you can fill in. I'm sure Bobby Tats will tag me and like 90 other people on Twitter and say, click the link. And, he does that. I don't know if anybody ever gets tagged. I think, Chris, you might get tagged on it. But Bobby Tats tags like 90 people.
No, he does.
It's like, Bobby, I'm going to play your show. Don't worry. You gave me the link. I'm going to tweet and give you a quote. Don't worry about it, Bobby. So some people, Neil Villapiano is the same way. They tag 50 people, and it's like, don't worry. I know. I'm going to support you. Don't worry. So, but obviously, all kidding aside, shout out to the Pinstripe Chronicles. Shout out to Lynn Donaldson and everybody else that has made us what we are today. And, of course, if you like Sportswire Radio, please give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. Also, give us a like at Sports Report X. And obviously, we're talking all things related here to the world of professional sports and a lot of NFL-related talk because people are having a good time here. And they like us bantering about the games. And I'll go into another game here, guys, and going right into it. Again, another interesting matchup. Speaking of the Indianapolis Colts, they are 7-point favorites against the Las Vegas Raiders. And got to give the Raiders a lot of credit. Usually they fold down the stretch, and they've kind of hung in there. Despite a lot of obstacles, we hear some talk about different coaches, but I think their interim coaches kind of hung in there. But the Colts are 7-point favorites here. 44.5 is the over-under. I mean, the Raiders did certainly draw a team that I would not want to face right now in the Indianapolis Colts. They might arguably be the second-best team in the AFC at the moment behind those Kansas City Chiefs. So, Justin, I kind of see you nodding here. I mean, give me your thoughts here on Colts and Raiders. Colts 7-point favorites. 44.5 is the over-under. Give me your thoughts.
Well, this is where we enter in the great unknown because we don't know who's going to start at quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts come Sunday. It came out on Tuesday that Carson Wentz tested positive for COVID-19, and as an unvaccinated player, the now guidelines is that you have to sit out a minimum of 5 days. That does take him up to Saturday, so there is a possibility, despite not practicing all week, that he could become the starting quarterback. Originally he would have been out 10 days as an unvaccinated player, and so that would put Sam Ehlinger, the former Texas University of Texas product, in as the starting quarterback, and I really don't know what to expect from Indianapolis Colts come Sunday because I don't know who's quarterbacking, and even if it is Carson Wentz, it's a week of not practicing, and it really just does not. It's one of those games, like, as a bettor, I would just completely not touch because it's just like I don't have a feel for this game one way or the other, and especially if Sam Ehlinger is the quarterback in this game, the Raiders are going to stack the box. And it's going to make it that much harder on Jonathan Taylor to run the football in this game against a Raider defense that isn't all that bad. I would say
they're
more
hung in there. They've been
they're more middle of the pack than anything at this point. But and you don't know what to expect for the wide receivers, Michael Pittman and T.Y. Hilton and Zach Pascal. You don't know what production they're going to get, especially if Ehlinger's the quarterback. And
I'll tell you what Zach Pascal is given nothing. I have him on my
pretty much.
It's giving me nothing.
Well, I hope you're in like a 14 team
position.
Well, I would hope you're in a 14-team league because that's the only way Zach Pascal should be on a roster. To be honest with you, but yeah. So it's gonna make it tougher on the Colt offense. The defense has been okay, but Derek Carr, for the most part, he's a good quarterback. He's gonna play well. He's gonna put up his numbers. Josh Jacobs is a solid running back. So this to me is a toss-up game. I really don't know who's gonna win this game, to be honest with you.
Let me ask you a completely different question because you said a few different interesting things and you kind of touched upon it in the SportsWire thread. And I think it's important because a couple of different people here, especially the brute force, I think would have an interesting perspective on this. Colts have a lot on the line, fair to say, right? Carson Wentz, unvaccinated player, and I'm not going to go down the cliff about vaccinated versus unvaccinated because Lord knows I'll get shot on either side of it. But if you're in a position, right, what the Colts are in, the way the Colts have played 8-2 the last 10 games, and I want to go with Brad on this because Brad's a coach, Brad's a player, Brad's been in those shoes. He's had that.
I got my thoughts about this too. Trust me.
Oh, we're going to get to you. So that's why I think this is an interesting discussion here. And I'll get down to the other games, and I'll get to Mother Superior's plug January 9th, her show with Chris Northup. Go check it out, and we'll play it on SportsWire Radio. That's done. But I want to talk about this because I find it very fascinating. Colts have a lot in the line. Colts are obviously they even have a shot at winning their division.
Yes.
Brad, how would you feel about Carson Wentz and his situation? Should he have been vaccinated considering all the things are on the line? How would you feel if you're a teammate in that locker room? Because Carson Wentz is your guy, and the quarterback's a very important position. And again, I'm not taking sides, but it's a very unique situation. How would you feel, the Brute Force, if you were a player and Carson Wentz is missing a big game, you have a lot in the line, how would you feel about this situation?
Yeah, that's obviously a very tough question for me because, listen, obviously we've had our conversations about a guy like Kyrie Irving in the past, and now we're talking like Carson Wentz. Listen, Carson Wentz has been there for his team. He's been playing. He's been playing very well. And, listen, I understand that, again, I'm not going to go into the decision part of it because that's his personal choice. But obviously it is, affecting the team because, him not being out there is a significant loss for the Colts. Now, the one thing I would say, the Colts as an organization, I think, should have been a little more prepared for this because knowing that your, starting quarterback is unvaccinated, I think you would want to have a little bit better of a backup than Sam Ehlinger. I think you might want to.
I'm glad you said that and I didn't.
And listen, that's something that that's the reason why you sign guys who are veterans or at depth or have had experience. And we all like to rip on Mr. Josh Johnson, but he's at least somewhat competent. And a guy who Ehlinger is not really ready to go right now. And I just see that being the bigger problem here is that the Colts should have been knowing and more prepared for this, knowing that he's unvaccinated and that this could possibly happen. So as a teammate, obviously disappoints me, but it is a personal choice. He has been there. He has done everything. He's not Aaron Rodgers where he's not wearing his mask. He wears his mask. He does what he has to do.
Okay.
And he's been a great leader for the team. So you can't be too upset. It is his personal choice, but I think it's more about the Colts organization being more prepared for this. And quite frankly, I just don't think they were. And I think that's a big reason why you guys see the flashing light behind me. And that's going to be the result of this game. Whether Carson Wentz plays or not, I believe the Raiders are winning this game.
Before I get to Justin, can we make it a weekly staple with the siren alert? Because I happen to enjoy the siren alert. I have to say I am a stickler for the siren alert.
That's a great feature.
Yeah, I have to say, Brad, I hope you can keep that in a weekly thing. So, Justin, I want to get you in here because you had some thoughts on it in our SportsWire group, and I'd love to hear them. I mean, I just laid it out there with Brad. If you were a teammate in that locker room, you were playing for all this on the line. It's not the Jets here, it's the Colts. How would you feel?
Look, in your everyday walk of life, I respect your personal decision, whether you choose to get vaccinated or not. I'm obviously somebody who's vaccinated, and I'm pro-vaccine and all that stuff. I understand that. But listen, you're the leader of men. The quarterback is the leader of the team. Whether it's Zach Wilson or it's Tom Brady, quarterback 1 to 32, every starting quarterback, regardless of your status and how good you are, you are the leader of that team, and you are expected to be there week in and week out and be there for your team. And being unvaccinated puts you in a bad situation that you're not there for your team. And now you're in week 17. We're 2 weeks away from the playoffs, and your team is battling for a wild card spot. Right now, you're obviously in one of those wild card spots, but you're battling for a wild card spot, and now you potentially cost your team a game and a potentially spot in the postseason because you made that decision. It's really, of course, to Brad's point, Colts should have been more prepared. But to you as a leader, you got to have your priorities straight. You are committed. The Colts pay you to be the starting quarterback. The Vikings pay Kirk Cousins to be the starting quarterback. And guess what? Sean Mannion's starting this game because Kirk Cousins is unvaccinated. And guess what? This is a must-win game for the Minnesota Vikings. You just cost your team a shot at the postseason because you made a choice. Granted, I respect the choice, but when you're hurting an organization because you mean that much, and we broke down what Kirk Cousins is making next year. He's making $35 million guaranteed. When you're paid that much to do what you do for a living, you need to be there for your team week in and week out. And it's a selfish decision. It's the wrong decision, and it could cost them, both of those teams, a postseason spot because of missing one game.
Or it could certainly. The Minnesota Vikings may be done after this week. That's a very.
They're done. No, they're toast. They are toast.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be toast. I mean, it was just a matter of how burnt you like your toast. But that's a side point. But I'm sure Mr. Cousins, I'm sure, is having a lot of toast because he's certainly. Listen, not to say I've been a stand-up comedian in the past, but we do have it in the blood. But let's move on from that. I want to get Chris and Patrick's perspective on this. I mean, how would you guys feel if you're in the locker room? Carson Wentz is your leader. I mean, this is different. It's not like, okay, you're working a remote job or you don't have to get vaccinated. You're an NFL quarterback. And your team has a lot on the line. I mean, there is a point that the Brute Force and Justin are making that, you know what, it's valid to a lot of people. And if I'm a guy in the locker room and I had to get my 2 shots and whatever it is, and my guy, my quarterback, he didn't, and now he's out, you have a lot in the line. I mean, how would you feel, Chris?
Oh, it would definitely upset me. I'm kind of on the fence because like Brute Force says, you got to respect his decision not to do it, whatever. I'm not on that side, but I get it. There's so much bad information out there, and you're going to believe what you want to believe in this situation. But in saying all this, he did the right thing in the whole week. It wasn't like he was like Aaron Rodgers, right? Where he gave you some, ridiculous answer before the season started, and everybody just kind of was like, oh yeah, okay, so I guess he's vaccinated, but he did the right thing. He wore the mask all the time. He whatever. He did the right thing. I still think it's wrong because and I'm with Justin as well, because you're the leader of the team. You got to step it up and you got to say, all right, you know what? I don't like this vaccine. I think it's garbage, whatever. But you know what? I have to do what I have to do what I have to do. Now, looking at it from the medical side of it or the scientific side of it, either person can get the virus with or without the vaccine, right?
Okay.
Now, with these new rules, it does help the guys that are unvaccinated, right? Because now you don't have to wait 10 days. You only have to wait the 5 days, like if you were vaccinated. So with the new rules, to me, it's no big deal. But, now you got to hope that in the 5 days, you got all negative tests and you'll be good to go. That's where listen, it's a complete mess. Because whether you're vaccinated or not, you could still miss the game. But it just stinks right now. It's just horrible. And I would, I would be upset because I'd be like, just get the shot. What's the big deal? Get your 2 shots. And whatever. And it's over and done with, right? It's no big deal. You're not going to die. Nothing's going to happen. But but you know what? Carson Wentz and the NFL, this is like a perfect backdrop for what's going on in the world today, right? Because people are against it, people are for it, people are like, oh, it's my right, I get to do what I want, whatever. So, and I'm on the fence too because I agree. Should you be forced to? No, but listen, if you're a nurse, a cop, and all that, those are jobs that if you get sick and there's a bunch of them missing, we can't get the next guy on the side to replace them. There's no.
It's not like Mike Francesa where you can.
I don't want open heart surgery. The Sam
right.
Allen.
There's no backup. At least here, like you said, they should have had a better backup. You should have got a Josh Johnson type guy.
I'm waiting.
I'm all over the place, but
Before I get to Patrick, because I have it on the board here, we have somebody tuned in who the Brute Force knows very well, who's watching this on YouTube, and that's Mr. Jason Getz. And do you care to respond very quickly before I get to Patrick from Mr. Getz? Do you want to care to respond to him, or you want him to wait a little while? I mean, do you want to make Mr. Getz watch this for a little while, and then we'll let you respond in a little while? I mean, let's say you, Brad.
Well, first of all, I'll thank Jason for tuning in. He's a fun kid. He plays at Clark High School. He's a guy who I train, and he's a tremendous guy. So, I want to give him a shout out and thank him for watching the show. He's a big basketball guy, and he knows that I'm a fan of Robin Lopez. That's why he's asking the question, because if anybody knows, obviously from my St. Joe's days and my Plainview days, my best move was my hook shot, and Robin Lopez.
He had a good hook shot. He did have a very good hook shot.
So Robin Lopez is one of the best in the NBA with the hook shot. So that's the reason why he's asking the question. He's just trying to get under my skin here, but at the same time, listen, he's the man. I appreciate him tuning in. And I'll just say, listen, I'm a fan of Robin Lopez's game offensively. Defensively is a different story, though, because he's definitely not the best defender, and you guys all know that was my specialty. So that's something that I don't like, but his hook shot I respect.
Well, I'll say one thing. I even think Robin was a better defender than his brother. If it makes you feel any better, if it makes you feel better.
Not saying much.
I'm trying to listen.
I would say though, I would give him a little more credit. I mean, Brook Lopez played well in the finals defensively. He had some good games in the finals and in the playoffs last year on both ends. So I would give him a little more credit. I love Robin, and I'll say one more thing about Robin Lopez. The type of person he is. I know he beats up the mascots, but he's funny.
I always enjoyed that. I always enjoyed when he did that. I always thought it was funny. It reminded me, if anybody's a baseball fan, remember when the Philadelphia Phillies mascot, the Philadelphia Philly, he used to get beat up. Then it was who's the Brewers mascot? It's the
Billy the Brew Crew.
Yeah, everybody would go down the slide, and I used to like that. Remember when the Expos had Youppi as the mascot? I always liked when the mascots get beat up.
The San Diego Chicken.
Yeah, the San Diego Chicken. The Devils have a mascot.
Sort of have Youppi ejected from a game once.
Yep. What's that?
Didn't Tommy Lasorda have Youppi ejected from a game once?
Yes, he did. That's in the blooper reel. MLB Network play. That's like 100 years ago. Jason's like, what the hell are we talking about? But that's just go to MLB Network and you can watch it on one of their marathons. I mean, you and Rob Moroska, I'm sure, can enjoy that. But thank you, Jason, for tuning in. Obviously, hang on. We'll talk basketball at the end of the show before the ball drops. And thank you for your support. But Patrick, I got to let you jump in here because I still find this a very fascinating discussion. I will get to the Jets game because John Gonzalez wants to hear the Jets game, and it is getting close to the time where I should bring it up. But I mean, how would you feel, Patrick, if you're a teammate of Carson Wentz's right now?
I'm with Justin. I'm even further than Justin. You're getting paid that much money. I'll give him the shot myself. I want him to play. That's another story if you want Carson Wentz to play. But I will not stand for this Sam Ehlinger slander. He is going to come out and he is going to win the game.
Oh boy!
Here we go. I don't have the horn. I don't have the TV going, but he is going to prove my Ian Book pick from last week wrong. He's going to be the exact opposite of that. He's a proven winner in college.
You can't pretty much watch Ian Book.
But
trying to talk into existence. Exactly.
If
I was a team in Carson Wentz, I would be very upset. I mean, your personal beliefs are fine, but once they come up against my ability to make a paycheck, to maybe earn a playoff bonus, that's where you're screwing with my stuff. So I would not be in a leadership role. I would not be happy about that. Well, I mean, what does Jonathan Taylor say? Like, what do you say to Carson Wentz after this? Like, you did everything right. That's like almost saying I'm going to play football, but I don't want to wear a helmet because it infringes on my rights.
On the other side,
okay, though, that's a great view, but
the thing is, though, on the other side, you could still get this virus even with the vaccine, right? So that's the crazy part of this whole thing is that, right? It's that, and that's the nutty thing. That's the crazy thing. And I agree, he should have just got it. I'm with you, but
wouldn't you want to be proactive though?
Right. No, I agree.
That's the whole thing.
I'm just bringing up what he would say because that's what.
Right. That's like saying I can tear my ACL on any play.
Right.
But I'm not going to wear the guard because
because that's what Wentz is saying to everybody. Hey, you could get it too, even if you got the vaccine. So
breakthrough case. Yeah, of course.
Right. Exactly. It's obviously less chances.
It's a tough
and
sell
all that, but
to the rest of the locker room.
Right. That's
I think
the argument.
I
hate it too. So
It's just one of them unfortunate situations. And the Brute Force, I know there was a comment geared towards you, but I'm going to plead the fifth on reading that comment. For now, I'll let that person maybe wait in suspense in about 15 minutes or so. We'll get to that comment. I think Brad knows, because I showed it on the board here. Brad will get the comment here from James Dess on who's the most underrated guard in Nassau County. So I'll let the Brute Force answer that in a little while. So we'll plead the fifth, because I kind of think that's an inside the baseball or inside the guard line quote, or inside the 3-point line, and obviously, and he also has another funny comment, which again I'm not even going to put it on the air. James, thank you for tuning in though, and yes, we'll get to the thoughts on the attendance issues at Bradley University. I'm assuming we're not talking about Bradley's alma mater, but Bradley University. So I'm assuming that's at least my thought here, but I am going to move on here because John Gonzalez, I know a few other people. I have Anthony Finkel, who's tuned in here. He's a huge New York Jets fan. Of course, Anthony Finkel has called like 4 different times when it comes to the Jets this year. And it is the game that I want to get to, because I still want to get to Titans, Dolphins, and I want to get to Falcons, Patriots. And that is obviously the Buccaneers and the Jets. An old friend is coming home, I guess, quote unquote here, one more time in Tom Brady and Zach Wilson. Again, I mean, I'm feeling the Zach Wilson love right now. These last 3 weeks, I listened to Chris and Sharman on the Liftoff Jets show yesterday and this morning. And for the first time, I'm like, wow, you know what? I watched him play the last 3 weeks, Braxton Berrios, and the way we're moving the ball. And we had Michael Carter, and he's not turning the ball over. And yet we got Tom Brady and the Bucs, and the Bucs are 13.5-point favorites here. 45.5 is the over/under. I mean, I'm going to go right into it and go with Justin here on this match, because I want to go to Brad next. I want to at least dial it down a bit from Brad. But for you, Justin, give me your thoughts here on this matchup between the Buccaneers and the Jets. And John Gonzalez chimes in and says, well, at least the Jets got a new kicker. So, I mean, maybe that'll help in this game.
An actual kicker, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that could help. I mean, but Justin, talk to me about your thoughts on this matchup.
Well, I'll first off by saying I'm excited to finally be back in MetLife Stadium for the first time since 2018. So
congratulations.
I'll be at Jets Buccaneers on Sunday.
Congratulations, bro. Nice.
In the Meadowlands. So I'm excited for that. But look, it's gonna be a tough matchup for the Jets to deal with. Granted, the Bucs have never won in New Jersey against the Jets. The Jets are 10-2 all time against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But it's just gonna be tough on this Jets defense. You know, obviously Tom Brady's the master of everything, and you know, whether Mike Evans plays or not, that remains to be seen for Tampa Bay. But you know, Antonio Brown was really somebody who stepped up last week in Evans' absence. You know, they're missing a ton of receivers. Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn, they stepped up in the backfield, and you know, Tom Brady just knows exactly what to do and knows what works. He's gonna find Rob Gronkowski. And, Gronk's been a matchup nightmare for the Jets for many years. You know, this is nothing that's not familiar to this Jets team based on the rivalry with the New England Patriots. And, you know, it's going to make it tough.
That's a rivalry?
Not really. Not really. The Jets win once every 10 years.
Sorry.
The Jets win once every 10 years against the Patriots, but
playoffs. Hey, we do have a playoff win.
That's right. In New England,
big win there, I would add.
That's a big one in your corner, yeah.
And I recall late in the 2002 season, the Jets went into Foxborough and beat the Patriots.
And that parlayed them into winning that division.
Yep. So there's some. The Jets have some moments. I know it's not many, but there are some important ones. They made it count at least. At least they made it count.
That's true. But I want to continue to see more progression from Zach Wilson in this game. You know, I think we've seen some baby steps over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, he's taking care of the ball a lot better. And you know what I think they're doing is that they're utilizing Zach Wilson's athleticism a lot more lately. And I think that's the biggest key. You know, he's not going to be this drop back and pass kind of quarterback, you know, where he's in the pocket. He's going to need to make plays with his legs, you know, whether it's the off-scheduled throw outside the pocket or it's, you know, picking up a first down with his legs. And we've seen more of that. And, you know, we saw his escapability on that 52-yard touchdown run against the Jags on Sunday. And, you know, he really is He's starting to grow into the position. I know the numbers are not going to jump out at you. He threw for 102 yards, but he ran for 91. So he had almost 200 yards of total offense. That's not going to jump out at you. But at the same time, it's the decision making that really is what breeds the confidence, because if he's not having these 3-4 interception games, he can go into it and say, okay, I can put up better numbers, but I'm not turning the football over. I'm taking care of the ball. I'm using my athleticism. I'd love to see Mike LaFleur run a few more RPOs with Zach Wilson, because I think that's when he's at his best, and that's when the Jets can utilize the talent that they have around him. Granted, the wide receivers have been thin with all the injuries / COVID issues this year, but Michael Carter's back and he looked strong last week. I'd like to see more continued development out of Michael Carter this week. He gets Elijah Vera Tucker back on the offensive line. So, the offensive line, which has actually been pretty decent for the most part, and you've seen some building blocks where the offensive line all of a sudden is not this real glaring need for the New York Jets. If they ran it back with the same offensive line next year, you say, okay, they could build some depth, but it's really not a terrible offensive line. It's going to be about this defense, because this defense has just been dreadful all year. They can't stop the run. The corners have done okay. Bryce Hall has really turned himself into a starting corner. Brandon Echols has shown a lot of promise. Even the other Michael Carter on defense. So there are some pieces, but they're just young, and that's where a veteran quarterback like Tom Brady just totally takes advantage.
No question, and obviously we'll certainly see. And I have to ask before I get to Brad, where are you sitting Sunday, Justin?
It's section. We're going right to my Ticketmaster app.
I'm curious now where you're sitting.
It's like section 104.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay.
It's like It's like the corner of an end zone. Not exactly. Okay. It is section 104. Row 46.
Trying to think
a little high up in the row, but
I'm trying to think if my buddy John Kelly, who's with the firefighters union, sits in that section. He's right around there. So if you see a tall guy with glasses with blonde hair, just mention my name, and I'm sure he'll be happy to maybe buy you a beer. Just tell him I sent you. So if you get a free beer, you know where it's coming from. But that's a separate point. But I think the Brute Force, I really want to hear what you have to say before I get to, of course, Patrick and Chris, because I think people want to hear this. I know people on Instagram, now that we're on YouTube, people are definitely going to want to hear what the Brute Force Brad Weiss has to say, especially because you said you had a number of upset alerts this week. And I'm curious
maybe another
if
one,
this is one of them. So you're going on the spot, buddy. I mean, Buccaneers, Bucks, we see our old friend Tom Brady. Do the Jets continue the momentum? You're on the clock.
This would be an upset, Brute Force. This would be an upset.
So first of all, I just want to say I'm actually really excited that you guys like this, because there's like anticipation for this now. And you know what? And listen, I will say, going into 2022, I got a lot of ideas up my sleeve for what I'm going to put behind me. So just stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
Keep the siren. Just keep the siren. I'm telling you, remind me of the old Monday Night Raws.
There's going to be a lot more. There's going to be more stuff. But
all right.
I got to be honest with you, Tom, and I know I'm going to, people really want me to press the button and get it up there right now. But this is where the gentle force, my mother, who's tuning in right now, gave me an education lesson on this game. Ooh. She said to me, do not doubt Tom Brady, because he owns the Jets and he will come to MetLife Stadium as he always does and beat them. And I said, you know what, Mom? I'm agreeing with you, and I'm not going to go on the sports report and upset you and say something ridiculous. So I'm going with what she said, because she said, and she's, one of her favorite athletes of all time is Tom Brady. So she said, never doubt Tom Brady. And when it comes to the Jets against Tom Brady, do not pick them. And I'm going to listen to my mother here, because she's done a lot of good for me. And to end 2021, I should give her one good thing at least and listen to her on one of my picks. And that's why I'm going to pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As much as I want to be that guy with the siren behind me again, it's going to happen again. But it's not going to happen for this Tampa Bay Jets game. I just think Tampa Bay is going to come in there. They're going to do what they do. They're ultimately going to put up points. The Jets are not going to put up as many. and it's just going to be a Tampa Bay win. And Tom Brady's going to, say just like Aaron Rodgers says he owns the Bears. It's the same thing with Tom Brady and the Jets. It's besides the Buffalo Bills, the Jets are the other team that he owns.
All right. I mean, obviously, the Gentle Force clearly knows her team. She knows her players. And again, Tom Brady, I mean, that's, you can't go wrong with that. So obviously, huge shout out for her for watching. And I'm sure the Brute Force, she's watching this in a different room in the same setting. So I'm sure that you're definitely not going to want to go against your mother because, well, you're going to have to live with her and deal with that. So I certainly can't blame you. And I appreciate the honesty there. And of course, in all seriousness, huge shout out to the Gentle Force. Cannot thank her enough for all of her support over the years. She has been a huge supporter of us, and I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, say thank you. Now, moving on to Chris, because obviously in the Liftoff Jets show, you guys talked a lot about this matchup with Sharman, and of course, you can hear much more of the Liftoff Jets here coming up here Saturday and Sunday. And of course, please follow the Liftoff Jets on Twitter at Liftoff Jets, and of course, Charmin Phillip as well, Grown Folk 1980. So make sure you follow the guys and all the great things that they're doing. So, Chris, I got to ask you, for those that are watching this now that we're on 3 different dials and sportnarium.com/playerme, what do you think here? Do the Jets find a way to work some magic and pull off a late season upset, or it's Tom Brady and it's too much to overcome?
Yeah, it's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady and way too much to overcome, especially with the guys that are out still for us, especially at wide receiver. There is a lot of progression with Zach Wilson. Before the injury, I have it down here. He threw 2 touchdowns and he threw 9 picks, and he had no rushing touchdowns in those games before he got hurt. Since he's been back, he's thrown 3 touchdowns, thrown only 2 picks, and now he has 4 rushing touchdowns. So you could see the progression in him. You could see that he's maturing, and so I think they'll be able to put some points on the board because Tampa Bay's the corners and their safeties are banged up a lot. So they also have COVID issues and injuries. But Tampa Bay is just going to be too much. And Brady is not coming back to play us and lose. So he's going to want to come back and do his usual, light us up. And it's going to be an easy victory for Tampa Bay. I just hope we could just put some points on the board and it's not a 31-3 game or something like that. Hopefully we could kind of keep it close. But that's all I'm hoping for. Obviously, I'm being honest. I don't see a win this Sunday.
And I actually got to interrupt because we have a very quick call here, and I don't even have my car mount here, but I will try to handle it here. So give me 1 second. So we actually have a caller here, and I know who this is. So you're on the Sportswire Radio, and I think it's the Yak Attack Jacob Bard here. My friend, I know you're wishing us here a Happy New Year very quickly. How are you, buddy?
It's been a long 8 years of the worst mayor in the history.
We're doing sports, though. We're not doing political talk, though. We're doing sports tonight. So you might want to dial that back. I mean, if you want to call up WOR, call them up. But in all seriousness, my friend, I am live tonight. So do you want to say anything real quick to everybody watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and on sportnarium.com/player?
Hey guys, thanks for the time. I was going to say, starting a new year, this is the year where you can decide to change your life around. This is the year where you can make a resolution and actually keep it and not just go to the gym for the next 3 weeks and then quit. This could be the year where you can actually make a difference in your life. This could be the year where you can grow. This is the year where you can set goals and actually meet them and actually get it done. I know the last 2 years, some of us have not done that, but this could be the year where you turn things around.
Do you have a New Year's resolution? Because I know we are 48 minutes away to 2022. Do you have a New Year's resolution?
I started writing the last 2 weeks, so I want to keep on doing that.
Anything else that you'd like to say to everybody here watching and listening to this?
To shorten your life, it adds a spice to your day. Every time you listen to a show, listen to Thomas Price, and life will be
Are you at Times Square right now? Because it almost sounds like I'm hearing you. It sounds like maybe there's a ball or two drop. That's why I was like, you're going on and talking about different things. I'm like, this is sports tonight. I'm not doing news. And I would let you know if I'm doing news. But all kidding aside, obviously, I want to thank you for all of your friendship and support over the years. You've been a huge supporter of SportsWire Radio. And we wouldn't be here where we are today if it wasn't for people like you who supported us from the very beginning. So I'm sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, hope that you have a very good 2022, a better 2022 than a better 2021. And I hope you find happiness and prosperity, and your heart is filled with all happiness and positive dreams. And plug your social media here before we get out of here and talk some sports. Yes, the Yeshiva Maccabees. Yes. Now, if you wanted to open up with Yeshiva, unfortunately they got their butts kicked. They lost by 14. I mean, if you want to talk about Yeshiva, I mean, I'm sure Sunday I could do a spot with you on that, but there wasn't much to talk about Yeshiva yesterday. So Yeshiva, unfortunately, was down 23. And they couldn't shoot from the 3-point line. They couldn't make any baskets. But that's a different topic for a different time. But the Maccabees' 50-game winning streak is no longer. But they had a great run. Shout out to Coach Steinmetz and Ryan Terrell. The Brute Force Brad Weiss, who's on here with us, he actually played against some of those guys like Gabe Leifer and all those different players that you saw on the court. So, that is what it is. But plug your social media, Yak. All right. Well, listen, definitely tune into the rest of the show. And I want to thank you for all of your support and friendship over the years. And I can't thank you enough sincerely. You've been a supporter. You were listening to me when I was doing Skype calls. And I was nervous with the mic. And it was Tom and Rob. And Rob Maraska would call in at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. And we would have all this audio. It was so choppy. And yet here we are on 4 different portals and 13 countries were heard. And so you were one of my guys that supported me from the beginning. Also want to wish you early happy birthday, but I'll bring you back on before the middle of the month. And listen, Happy New Year. Stay safe out there. And thank you for all that you've done for the station. And I look forward to speaking with you soon, my friend. Okay? All right, buddy. Listen, enjoy the rest of the show and Happy New Year. Stay safe out there. And we're going to talk Boston football. So if you're a football, and I know you're a big football guy, definitely keep it tuned in there, buddy. All right, I'll speak with you soon. All right, and that was the Yak Attack, Jacob Bardu. Sometimes you get this when you're live on the radio. People call you unexpectedly, and that was one of those unexpected calls. And so he was first he thought he was speaking on a news show, and I'm like, no, it's sports. You might want to call another dial and talk about de Blasio. But I'll plead the fifth on all that, and I'll let him handle that with somebody else. But obviously, thank you to the Yak Attack. He's been a big supporter. But I want to go back to Buccaneers Jets, and I want to get Patrick Tridy's perspective because he knows Tom Brady better than all of us might know Tom Brady. And obviously, I'm curious on what you think about this game. Bucs also have a lot in the line here. I think what's also not been pointed out here, the Buccaneers can still move up in terms of where their positioning is. So that could be important also if you're a Bucs fan. But obviously for you, Patrick, I mean, this is a very familiar spot for Tom Brady. Obviously, Bucs are big favorites, and Vegas is obviously looking at that track record, understandably so. And what do you think here between the Bucs and the Jets?
Well, my heart says pick the Jets and just go crazy. Because Tom Brady's dead to me. But my head says it's Tom Brady. They have too much. The Buccaneers have too much. I'll hedge my bet and pick the Jets to come within the spread. I'll say the Jets lose by 10. I like what Zach Wilson is doing, like the other guys have said recently. And even with some of the injuries with the Buccaneers, even if Mike Evans isn't playing, they still have Gronk, and Gronk to Tom Brady. It's worked out in the past, so I
that's a fair assessment.
But yeah, I'm lukewarm on Tom Brady right now. So
And I also have to bring up the Brute Force's mom, of course, the Gentle Force is tuned in, and she reiterates, she says, Happy New Year, everybody. Of course, Happy New Year to you as well. Obviously, thank you for all of your support. And she says, Tom Brady will kick ass on the Jets and a smiley face. So clearly, he's rooting for the Jets, but she knows Tom Brady's going to win, which we all think that. So obviously, shout out, obviously, to Mrs. White. She's been a huge, huge supporter. I cannot stress enough. One of our biggest supporters over the years has been the Brute Force's mother. So I want to make that clear and reiterate that fact over and over and over. But I want to go to another game because I want to spend a few more minutes on here. Yeah.
I just want to jump in because I actually have to run a little early tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Please plug social media, closing thoughts.
Sure.
You
sure. First of all, I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy new year. May everybody have good things come to them in 2022. And, we've been through a crazy last couple of years, and let's hope we kind of like start to move out of that and everybody, is happy and healthy in the new year. So you can follow me on my Baseball Banter Twitter page at @BBallBanterSM. Again, like I said last night, there's going to be some shows about like each team's Mount Rushmore. I'll do it division by division. And then you can follow me on my personal Twitter at JGNelly12, where I'm sure I'll be commenting plenty such about the Jets Buccaneers game from MetLife Stadium on Sunday. So, I just wanted to wish everybody again a happy new year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Justin.
Congratulations on that. And go enjoy yourself. I know you're ready to go out there and party. So listen, just do it and go out there. Have a great time. And I'm looking forward to hearing those great shows and see you out there on the field Sunday.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
All right. And that was Justin Gianelli. Of course, we're going to remove him from the stream to make it easier. So that means we're done with that. So I think that I want to go to another game here very quickly that has a lot on the line, and that is the Titans and the Dolphins. I want to save the Patriots and Falcons after this one, but this game to me, such an intriguing matchup, Titans and Dolphins. I feel like every week I'm talking about the Dolphins, and here they are. They're coming and coming and coming, and they're the first team to go 7-7. Now the first team to go 8-7, and they could be the first team to go 9-7, 10-7, and yet they're meeting an old foe, a familiar face, kind of similar to the Buccaneers and Jets, where Ryan Tannehill, an old familiar face, they're going to be facing here. And again, such an interesting game here for a couple of different reasons. And also, again, Titans 3.5-point favorites over the Dolphins. 39.5 is the over-under. I find this such an interesting game. Obviously, Titans can pretty much wrap up the AFC South here with a win and a Colts loss and improve their playoff positioning. And the Dolphins, again, what a story. And I see the Yak Attack Jacob Bart is watching. So thank you, Yak. You just called in and he's watching. So appreciate the love, buddy. Thank you for your friendship and support. But I really want to get to this Titans-Dolphins game. I find it so fascinating. I know, as Chris pointed out, the Dolphins run. They've beat a lot of pretenders. They beat a lot of imposters. But yet they did it. They defied the odds. You got to give them a lot of credit. And I want to get the Brute Force Brad Weiss's perspective on it because he's kind of been in this spot that the Dolphins have been. Obviously, I think about our 2017 SJC Golden Eagles, who win 10 games in the conference and didn't win a game the whole year in non-conference play. And the Dolphins kind of did that. They lose 7 in a row. They win 7 in a row. They've made history. The Brute Force, I know you've had mixed feelings on the Miami Dolphins, as I'm sure most of us have had. So give me your thoughts here on this matchup. Titans-Dolphins. Titans small favorites here. What do you think?
Well, I just gave the people who are watching a hint, and I'll tell the people who are listening the answer. And the answer is that the Miami Dolphins will continue their run, and they will continue their run in Tennessee against the Tennessee Titans. I actually, listen, we all know who the Dolphins have played. We know that they played the Saints, the Jets, the Giants. You go down the list. They haven't played a bunch of great teams. But there is something to say about a team that's won this many games in a row and has went from 1-7 to 8-7. And it doesn't matter what opponent it is. That is extremely difficult to do. That's one thing. It's funny, Tom, because going into the weekend, for my basketball team, the JV basketball team, we had lost a couple games in a row. And I said, listen, fellas, if there's one team you want to learn from the Miami Dolphins. To see that they were 1-7, and they didn't give up, and now they have a chance to make the playoffs and turn their season completely around. And right now, that's the team that's inspired. Their defense is playing absolutely excellent. One of the best defenses in the league right now. Their offense is complementary. I'm not going to say they're anything great, but they're complementary. They do the job. And the one thing the Tennessee Titans, are not necessarily a powerhouse offense. Yes, they have some big weapons. Yes, they have the ability to score some points. But I don't see them necessarily having their best day against the Miami Dolphins defense. And I think the Dolphins defense is going to play big in this game. I think they're going to hold Tennessee to under 20 points. And I think Miami will score right around 23 points. And I think this will be about a 23-17 game and a close one.
Yeah, I think this game is going to definitely be a low-scoring matchup. I think obviously both quarterbacks are not going to like. This is not going to be Mahomes and Burrow. Let's just put it that way. Right. That is going to be the total opposite of that matchup. So I totally agree with you on that. I mean, Chris, I got to get your thoughts on it because again, such an interesting matchup here. Obviously, the Dolphins, quite a story, quite a run. They've defied the odds. They've made history, but they still haven't closed the deal. And the Titans, again, now with the Colts and Carson Wentz, maybe they could pretty much shore up the AFC South and put themselves back a little bit after going on a little bit of a bumpy road here. I mean, what do you think here in this matchup between the Titans and Dolphins?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight game, probably ugly because both quarterbacks are not exactly, like you said, Burrow and Mahomes. So, but, just like you said, Miami – both teams need this win. The Titans can't afford to lose because with the Colts coming right behind them, even though they own the tiebreaker with them, they're actually up by 2 games. But anyway, yeah, I still think Tennessee is going to pull this game out. AJ Brown looked really good last week, even though they probably should have lost last week because Jimmy G really kind of threw that game away. But I can't see Miami winning eight straight. So I'm going to take Tennessee, even though it's going to be, I don't think they're going to cover. I think it's going to be like a field goal game or something like that. Maybe a 20.
Yeah, this is one of those games. If you're a better, yeah, this is one of those games. If you're a better, you avoid.
Stay away.
Because, the spread's low and these teams don't score many points.
No,
and,
yeah.
I see where you're coming from because there is a point where eventually does the shoe drop with the Dolphins, but they've done it. You got to give them that much credit. I mean, so for you, Patrick, obviously Titans, Dolphins, your New England Patriots are going to see the Dolphins at the end of the season. Who knows if that game means something? We're going to get to the Patriots next. Then I want to get to Baker Mayfield afterwards, and then final thoughts and anything else in the world. But I mean, for you, Patrick, Titans, Dolphins, again, find it a very, very intriguing matchup. Give me your thoughts here. Who comes out with a much-needed W?
Yeah, I like the Dolphins in this game. I think that.
Wow. Okay.
You've talked me into the Dolphins. I think the shoe drops for them next week against the Patriots.
Okay.
Down to earth, but
okay.
I like the fact that their offense isn't anything to write home about. Tua is what he is. He's competent. He's kind of a steadying influence. But I really like what they're doing with Jalen Waddle. I like how they're lining him up in multiple positions, different formations, getting him the ball on toss sweeps, putting him in the slot, putting him on the outside. It just opens up the playbook with him. And like the brute force and Chris said, their defense is legit. It's a good defense. I don't trust Ryan Tannehill at all. And they're a completely different team without Derrick Henry, obviously. So even though the Dolphins are on the road, it's going to be an ugly game, but I think the Dolphins will find a way to win and continue their winning streak.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Miami Dolphins control their own destiny. If they win out, they're in the playoffs. I mean, and this could be a playoff preview because right now, I believe if the season ended today, the playoff matchup would be the Tennessee Titans and the Miami Dolphins. I mean, there are 4 teams tied at 8-7, to be fair. So, that could certainly change. But, again, very intriguing matchup. Again, Dolphins, quite a story. And Titans are the 2 seed. Despite our talk about the Titans, they've kind of stumbled their way into the 2 spot still. So the Titans have definitely been a beneficiary of some much-needed breaks. And then the game I really am dying to get into also, the other game, is obviously the Atlanta Falcons, who the brute force is called the dumbest team in football. And yet they managed to still be alive week after week. Conversely, how we talk about the Dolphins, they find a way. In reverse, the Falcons find a way and are still alive in this playoff picture. And the New England Patriots, obviously, after losing the last couple of weeks here, they certainly need to get back on track here. Also here, thanks to the Crack Staff, Also, wait, I just realized I got the wrong matchup. We're talking about the Patriots and the Jaguars here. So forget about that. I'm not even going to cover that. So forget about that. So the other game of note was the Bills and Falcons. Forget about that. The crack staff is going to just say, forget that. And the other game I do want to talk about here before I get to the Browns and the Steelers is the Chargers and Broncos. Now, that's a game I found very fascinating. Obviously, Chargers here have stumbled a couple games in a row. Obviously, Chargers are 6.5-point favorites. Denver, we've seen their struggles offensively, defensively have played well, but unfortunately, they've had their problems. Chargers certainly do need a win here very badly. Chargers 6.5-point favorites, 45.5 is the over/under. I'll go with the brute force here first. I mean, is this one of your upsets, or am I missing something here and you like the Chargers?
No, it's not one of my upsets. It is a game that I believe the Chargers are going to bounce back. Obviously a very difficult loss to the Texans. The one thing about the Texans loss was their defense. I thought their defense in the LA Chargers was very leaky. Didn't really look very good against the Houston Texans. I do think that they'll come back and be okay against Drew Lock and those Denver Broncos coming to town. And listen, the Chargers really need this win. They need to win to stay in this mix. And I think that they're going to do so at home. They have been solid at home. It is a divisional game. Both teams know each other pretty well. I just think the Chargers here will score more points. Drew Lock is not somebody who's I'm going to pick on the road to win a game. So I'm just going to go with the Chargers here to give themselves a chance to make the playoffs. And also just because they have the better overall offense, in my opinion. Yes, Denver's defense is not anything to sneeze about. They are solid. But I do think that the Chargers offense will be better, and they will win this game.
Chris, for you, Chargers, Broncos. Chargers need a win badly. Broncos, for what it's worth, are still alive, but, I mean, they're pretty much just hanging on by just process of elimination mathematically. What do you think?
With Drew Lock, they probably – I don't want to say they have no shot, but they're not beating the Chargers with Drew Lock at quarterback. Even Teddy Bridgewater, we all know what he is. Very limited as a quarterback, probably best suited as a backup quarterback. Denver should be a much better team, but their quarterback situation is holding them back. So, without a doubt, Chargers probably going to win by – Denver's defense is going to keep them in the game. But I think they'll win by at least 10, 14 points. And the Broncos will be looking very closely at a quarterback this year.
I think they're the team you've sold me on that if they get a quarterback with that defense, they should be.
Offense.
Yeah, but you need a quarterback, obviously.
Their offense is stacked too, as well as their defense. So, yeah, that's my feeling about the game.
All right. For you, Patrick, real quick, Chargers, Broncos. You think Chargers win here? What do you think?
Yeah, let's make it 3 for 3. Clean sweep. I think, look, Justin Herbert leaves a lot of plays out there where you're scratching your head and you're thinking to yourself, he's too talented to make some of these throws that he's making. But again, he is him on his worst day is so much better than Drew Lock. And I'm just going to ride with the talent. I think the Chargers have too much talent on the offensive end, and defensively they've been playing okay, good enough against this Denver team. I'm not sure if I like the point spread, but I could see them winning by 28-24, close game.
Oh, Denver's in a lot of games. If you look at Denver, other than the Kansas City game, they've been pretty much in almost every game they've been in. They've hung in there, so you got to give them that much. And obviously, Chargers do need a much-needed win. I do want to give a shout-out very quickly to a few people who are watching. That is, of course, Tyler Peters. Tyler does some work for us with the Rewind Wrestling podcast. He's a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, so he would not want to hear the part where the Brute Force picked the Arizona Cardinals. So shout-out to you, Tyler. Just make sure you don't listen to the part earlier in the show when you're watching this or watching the replay that the Brute Force picked the Arizona Cardinals. So shout-out to you, my friend. Also, TJ Henry, of course. TJ is with the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. He has been a very, very, very long-time friend of mine, so I want to give him a huge shout-out as well. He's also a former college football player. He's a big man, TJ Henry. He's a big man. He's a very, very big man. His picture does not do him justice in his size, so I want to make sure that I recognize him But I do want to, before I get to the Browns Steelers game, and I want to go to the Brute Force. The Brute Force Brad-Wise, am I missing anything else when it comes to an upset alert? I just want to throw out there in case I'm not covering my
tracks. He's got one left.
Do you have anything left out there for upset alerts? Because 2021, we've only got 27 more minutes. So speak your piece now if I'm missing something.
I actually don't.
I was waiting for you to say you had one. I
thought you were going to pull out the Jaguars.
No, I am not. No, I'm not picking the Jaguars against the Patriots. I'm not picking the dumbest team against the Buffalo Bills. And I am certainly not picking the Kirk Cousins list, Minnesota Vikings against the Green Bay Packers. So I'm not doing that. Although, based on what you say, Tom, with who the quote-unquote favorite is in this Cleveland-Pittsburgh game, that might change it. But, we haven't gotten to that yet.
That's the last game I'm going to speak on. So, you know what? We're going right into it then. You're going right for the jugular. Browns, Steelers. Browns, bizarrely, 3.5-point favorites here. 41's the over-under. I mean, this is a game, the last Monday night game of the season. Boy, I don't know if they picked a good one or a bad one or in between. The good, bad, and ugly, as they would say. This is going to be the quintessential definition of that. So the Brute Force, go right into it.
Yeah, well, there's no more upsets then because the Cleveland Browns are going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I just think, listen, Ben Roethlisberger has basically said that this is his last home game. This is his last hoorah for the most part. And listen, the one thing is that I'm looking at, we all know Baker Mayfield threw like 1,000 interceptions. He didn't look great last week. Listen, I'm going to say, though, I think the Cleveland defense is going to do a solid job against Pittsburgh's offense. I think that's one thing that I like in this matchup. And then, listen, on the other end, I think Baker Mayfield, will do better. I think the Green Bay Packers defense deserves a little more credit. Even though I know that Baker Mayfield made some boneheaded decisions, I do understand also that the Green Bay Packers defense is something to behold as well, something to look at. So I actually like Baker Mayfield, having a good day. I love the Cleveland running game against Pittsburgh. I think that they're going to have a good day as well. And ultimately, again, an ugly game that's not going to be pretty. I think the Cleveland Browns win. And I think Pittsburgh, we can, officially say after all these weeks, oh, maybe they're playing. No, they're not. This will be it. We'll just say, no, they're not.
Kind of indicative, if you think about it, of the Monday Night Football season for most of these games, that there's just been so many ugly games this year for Monday Night Football. I mean, just, again, I realize they can't pick these games, but, I mean, a lot of ugly games. So, I mean, certainly it sounds like Monday Night Football is going out with a whimper. So, I mean, that's the one way I would kind of look at this here. But for you, Chris, obviously, Browns, Steelers, a lot in the line still. I mean, Steelers are alive for what it's worth. I mean, for you, Chris, give me your thoughts here on who do you think comes out with a W and continues or prolongs the suffering of them still being alive in playoff contention.
I think it's one more ugly game, like he said. I think before the season started, it didn't look like a bad matchup, because it looked like the Browns were going to be good and the Steelers are always in the mix every year. But I'm going to have to disagree. I'm going to say this is going to be an upset. I think Pittsburgh with Big Ben in his final home game, he's going to squeeze out whatever he's got left in him, and he's going to pull this team out, and the team itself is going to be right behind him, and I think they're going to pull out an ugly victory. It might be a 23-20, 2017, but I see them winning.
I almost have to say, essentially, it's not to me an upset because the Steelers usually at home find a way to win these games. But I guess to an extent, according to Vegas, it would be an upset. But obviously, I can certainly see where you both are coming from on that. I mean, for you, Patrick, here, Browns, Steelers, end the suffering here on this game. And who do you think comes out with a win to, I guess, prolong their suffering of us talking about them in playoff contention?
The Steelers suck. Let's just be frank. They're horrible. They're just in NFL purgatory right now. Big Ben, I should say, is most of that negative reaction, not the rest of the Steelers. But I think Big Ben's career should have ended last year. He's talking about this week is his final home game. Should have been last year. I don't trust the Browns, but I don't believe in the Steelers whatsoever. And give me the Browns running game, and hopefully Baker throws it under 30 times, and that's the prescription for an ugly, ugly, ugly win for Cleveland.
It's going to be an ugly game to watch. Like I said, Monday Night Football, and I probably should admit this or not, but almost throughout the entire year, I've flipped between WWE, Monday Night Raw, and Monday Night Football. And 7 times out of 10, unfortunately, we have a spectator here, so we're going to have to let that. We unfortunately have a pet here, so we're house sitting a pet, so that's why we had that here. So I think that's what the pet felt. The cat felt that we shouldn't be speaking about the Browns and Steelers. But I will say, throughout most of the year, when it comes to Monday Night Football, I've kind of flipped between that and wrestling, and I found wrestling more interesting. So that's kind of where we're at when it comes to the Monday Night Football season.
Is the Manning cast on?
I think one more. I think there's one. I think I saw the commercial for it. One more.
Oh, good.
Okay.
One more commercial for it. So obviously, that's where we're at with that. And obviously, here we are talking all things related here to the world of sports. And we've had some spectators, we've had phone calls, we've had pets come in. We've certainly had we've run the gauntlet here, and I'm going to open the door so that way I can not be disturbed anymore. And I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sports Wire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And we are hoping to stay here for the 20 or so more minutes and kick off the new year. And obviously, thank you, everybody, for watching and tuning in with us. We have Patrick Trotty of the Talking Rivals Show, esteemed author, Chris Bizzea of the Liftoff Jets, also the Talking Rivals Show, and, of course, the Brute Force Brad Weiss, of course, the legendary SJC Golden Eagle, and also of the Plainview JFK Hawks boys junior varsity team. And, of course, also want to thank everybody for watching and tuning in here. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sports Wire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And then I did want to bring it up here, Chris. Unfortunately, my condolences here for your Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, I know. Not good. You know what? And my gut instinct was telling me, that Georgia was going to win. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout, but my heart was pulling me towards Michigan. But it just stinks. It's going to be Alabama, Georgia, for the championship. But, it would have been nice to see Michigan in there. But, hey, it was a good season. They beat Ohio State, which they haven't done in a while. So I'm happy.
It's progress.
Yeah.
You ever thought of you, Patrick,
they were
on these
100 to
games?
1 odd at the start of the year to win the national championship, Michigan.
Were they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
First team to make the playoffs unranked at the start of the year.
Yeah,
Cool.
I was thinking about that. There aren't too many teams I could say that would have been in that discussion. That's a good point. I mean, anything you want to add on here, Patrick, on the 2 games between Alabama and Cincinnati? Cincinnati, they hung in for as long as they could.
Cincinnati gave a valiant effort, but their offense just Desmond Ridder, like I was saying, if not now, when? I guess never is the answer. Because
we're going to find out the whole offseason.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm rooting for Georgia in this game. I don't want to see Alabama win again.
I don't want to see an 8th national championship for Saban. I have to say, I'm definitely
7 is good enough.
I'm all good for Georgia. Listen, I'd be happy. Not to say I'm crazy about either team, but if I were to pick one, I'm certainly going with the Bulldogs. And before we get into maybe an NBA thought or two, the Brute Force, I did want to actually congratulate you personally because I know that our Plainview JFK Hawks boys junior varsity team did something that we haven't done here in quite a while. And the Brute Force, I'd like you to fill us in here for those who are watching and are listening to this as to what you guys did that you guys haven't done in quite a while.
Yeah, so it was definitely exciting to have gotten to play, first of all, because, a lot of games have been postponed here on Long Island. Luckily there was good news on a news day, stating that they're planning on, allowing us to continue the season, which is great news. But we got to play this week. We played 2 games in the Great Neck South Holiday Tournament, and both our varsity and my JV team won the championship. We both beat Harbor Fields High School and Locust Valley High School to win that. So it was a major accomplishment. I had some guys out, but the guys who were there for me really played hard. And I said it all season long, and I said it earlier when I was talking about the Miami Dolphins and how they started the season. We've had some tough losses, and, we've had, we have a tough record right now, but we've won 2 straight games, and we feel as confident as ever that we could turn this thing around in 2022. So I'm very excited for my team. They're definitely, working hard and continuing to, just make me proud. And I said that to them after the game. I said, I'm proud to be your coach. You guys work really hard for me, and we're right there. We're this close. And now that we've won 2 games in a row and we're going into the new year, I think we have a good chance to get on a hot winning streak here and having a lot of success. So I'm definitely excited about that. I also want to give a shout out, Tom, because the JV head coach at Locust Valley, his name is Joe Florio, and he's a good friend of Jason Facina's and Matt Gershio's. So
I think I know the name Joe Florio. It just sounds so familiar, Joe Florio.
Yeah, he came up to me before the game. He's like, "Oh, are you on that sports report that Jason and Gershio on?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me. That's me." And then, we had a nice conversation about it.
I'm surprised he didn't walk away after that.
No, I think I personally thought that he gained some respect for me right there. But ultimately, he was a cool guy, and I just had to do what I had to do in that game and get the win. So I'm proud of my guys, and I'm really looking forward to 2022 because the sky's the limit. We do have a lot of potential. We have some guys coming back from being out with injuries and COVID, so we're very excited for what's to come in 2022. And I want to give a shout out right here to my guys, the JV team that won the championship. The pictures on Instagram and all social media, and the varsity team that deserves their credit too. So shout out to the Plainview men's basketball program for doing that this week.
And I want to give a shout out before I get to Jason Getz, but I want to give a shout out actually to one of my very, very longtime friends like the Yak Attack, Jacob Barden. Of course, Daniel J. Slavin is watching us on Facebook. And I'm surprised Daniel J. Slavin is actually watching us because I was speaking with him off the air and I didn't think he was going to be up actually. That's a inside the baseball joke, but obviously he wishes us a happy new year. He is a huge supporter of us. He is a huge New York Jets fan who's living in the state of Florida. So he's kind of like half of New York now that's in the state of Florida. So I want to make sure I give a huge shout out to Mr. Daniel J. Slavin. And Daniel also wants me to point out that the Devils got a lucky win. Yay, but you know what, though? The Devils did get a lucky win, but there was some also questionable officiating in the third period. But give the Devils credit, Daniel, because Jack Hughes is coming in, and he looks like he's a player, and that's why they gave him a lot of money to stay with the team. So the Devils look like after a long slump, they are finally back on track. So certainly, as long as we play some games in the NHL. I mean, the Islanders had, I think, 4 games postponed, Chris, after tomorrow against the Oilers. So at this point,
all the West Coast games, I think.
At this point, if I'm an NHL fan, I need a scorecard on what games I'm watching, what games I'm missing. I think was it Justin who said the other day that what's going on here? Should we postpone it? I mean, I have no idea, but it's a bizarre NHL season, and clearly shout out to the Brute Force for acknowledging the fact that at least we can play on Long Island. I also want to give a shout out to Adriana Aviles, who is of course a big supporter of ours, of course does a phenomenal job supporting us and a great community advocate out there in Queens. And I'm reading off some other things. Daniel Slavin says he loves the show. We know that already. And Brad, I got to throw it out there because Jason Getz has a comment for us on YouTube. I mean, how's our boy number 4 doing?
Well, listen, first of all, just so you guys know, James and Jason both play for Clark. So the kid earlier, James, that was commenting.
I know. I know.
They're teammates at Clark High School. I trained them together, so that's the backstory there. And, I'll answer number 4 can refer to 2 different things. So James DeSimone, the kid who commented earlier about being an underappreciated point guard, is number 4. So he's definitely – so, Tom, just a backstory on him. James was a kid who I actually coached as a very young kid in the camps run at the Town Oyster Bay Athletic Center by Ed Dempsey and Kelly Dempsey. So I've known him for a long time. Now I train him. And just this year, he was actually named to the Newsday Top 100 Players on Long Island. So shout out to James. He certainly is one of our better players here on Long Island, and he can be a little bit underappreciated, but definitely was appreciated by Newsday. So I'll give him that shout out. And then, his favorite player is actually number 4, Isaiah Thomas, because, James is a small guy, and Isaiah Thomas, as everybody knows, has, been struggling to get back to the NBA. Just got back into the NBA with the Lakers on a 10-day contract. And James was so excited. And then, they didn't renew his contract, but now he's with the Dallas Mavericks. And speaking of those Dallas Mavericks, I just saw Brendan Fitzpatrick the other day.
Knew that was coming. Knew that was coming.
So I'm definitely curious to hear what he has to say about Isaiah Thomas being on the Dallas Mavericks. But
when are we getting him back on? I mean, I see Mo Kearney, his colleague at SUNY Cortland, posting stuff all over the place. I mean, I know that they're friends with us here, so I mean, I'm sure Mr. Fitzpatrick one of these days has to get back on with us because a lot of people would like to see that. So
absolutely.
We have a lot of people that owe us. Billy Heenan owes us an appearance on the show. Mike McSloy, your old coach, SJC, certainly owes us an appearance. And Brendan Fitzpatrick owes us an appearance. But I do want to get to your Aunt Laura, the Brute Force, because she gives us a huge compliment. And I want to read that off here. She says, fantastic show as usual. Happy New Year to you all. You all are great and make this show so much fun to watch. Happy New Year. Much love for 2022. Looking forward to what you'll all come up with next year. Well, Aunt Laura, I cannot thank you enough for all that you've done. Just like the Gentle Force, you have been with us here from pretty much since the very beginning. So I cannot thank you enough for all that you've done, all of your support, all of your kind words. It certainly makes you one of the strongest forces around. So certainly may the force be with you. And you are definitely our powerful force. So I'm calling you the powerful force. So that's why I want to give you a huge shout out and can't thank you for all of your support. And Daniel Slavin chimes in here and wants me to mention if the Olympics continue, Canada should give a spot to Jordan Tutu. Yeah, but you know what, Daniel? I mean, I was reading about the Olympics in hockey, and obviously the NHL guys aren't going in there. I mean, so it's all going to be amateurs and college guys at this point. So, I mean, I couldn't really tell you anything when it comes to the Olympics in terms of what's going to happen in Beijing. I mean, any thought on that, Chris? You're like me, a hockey fan. I mean, do you even care about the Olympics at this point with hockey? I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of
I'm kind of like, even with just hockey on its own, I'm just like, I can't get into it because
same here. It's been a very tough year. Yeah, it's been a bad year.
Tough. Hockey. I mean, the Olympics, I'll watch some of it, but am I, engrossed in the Winter Olympics? Not really. I'll probably watch the hockey. There's some, like, I don't know. I'm in.
Yeah, I honestly think, I can't believe I'm talking about the Winter Olympics 10 minutes before the new year, but I will say I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying this, but usually the only time I like watching the Olympics, and Daniel Slavin and I have had this conversation in the past, it's not even for basketball in the Summer Olympics. I just like watching the girls play volleyball. That's always been my one.
Volleyball is the absolute best.
Absolutely. There you go. Listen, there we go. And we have a volleyball coach on next Wednesday, Christy Herring of Five Towns College. But certainly I'm not going to make that comment with Coach Herring, obviously.
No.
But I like watching the girls play the Olympics in volleyball. That I like to say. And I do want to give a plug very quickly to our Plainview JFK Hawks program. Brad, I want to make sure everybody follows the Plainview Athletics program on Instagram at POB Athletics. I also want to make sure our basketball team gets a follow as well at POB Hawks Basketball. So everybody, if you like what you hear from the Plainview JFK Hawks, please give them a follow. Keep up with all the great things. I know that you guys are going to be in action here in the near and distant future, and we're very happy that the Long Island sports scene is continuing because obviously we're always on pins and needles because so many games have been canceled, postponed, whether it's pro, college, high school. So the fact that we are having games here is very, very, very good news here. But before we get out of here, and I know we've got about 10 or so minutes from the new year, I wanted to throw it out here to you guys in terms of, is there anything that sports related that you'd like to see or you're watching that you'd hope for in 2022? I mean, I'll go with Patrick first. Is there anything sports-wise going into 2022 that you're looking forward to that maybe you're watching eagerly, aside from Notre Dame tomorrow? Because I know Notre Dame is technically playing tomorrow, but is there anything else that you might be looking for?
Hopefully they play. They show up. But, I'm really looking forward to hopefully baseball in April. I mean,
please.
That's.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to. It's only a couple of months till pitchers and catchers report, and
not even. We're like 6 weeks away now.
Yeah,
January 1st,
a month and a half. Yep. So that's the main thing, and hopefully, COVID and the variants and all that stuff. Hopefully, it just doesn't ruin another season of playoffs. Hopefully, everyone's healthy and just kind of you get the best versus the best.
Well, I guess we'll find out. At this point, the way things are going, we might have to wait until the USFL league starts, where maybe things will get back to normal.
I'll take it.
I'm
take
looking
USFL.
forward to that. I have to say,
Me
if there
too.
is something for 2022, I'm actually very curious about is the USFL. For whatever reason,
Hey,
I'm
why not?
actually really curious about that. So that's one thing I'm going to put on my bucket list. But for you, Chris, I mean, I'll open it up. Is there anything now that we're 7 minutes until 2022 that maybe you're looking forward to in sports for 2022?
I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping baseball, the powers that be, just come together and just figure it out and don't let this linger anywhere past spring training and let it ruin the season. I know Met fans obviously are excited. I know you guys are excited, and as a Yankee fan, we don't know what we're getting yet, but I'm sure it's going to be something. So I'm excited too. I just love the game. I just want to see it back. And you know what? I'm looking forward to the NFL playoffs. I mean, I think it's going to be a crazy month of January where there's going to be a lot of good games. Obviously, you know, obviously the elite teams are there, but maybe one of these wild card teams are going to surprise somebody and you know, get a little upset and get Brad going with his tyrant for us. So, but I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a great playoff, I think, this year because it's all over the place. The NFL's been all over the place since week 1, and every week they give us 1 or 2 crazy games. So
it's been a fun season. I got to say, I've enjoyed the NFL season for the first time in a while. I mean,
yeah,
I was just covering these games here. It was so exciting. I mean, I know I've been on the air with Brad and a few others from the Sports Report team, and we've covered games for a while, but I was genuine. There was a lot of games that were just really, really exciting this year. And Daniel Slavin jumps in here and talks about track and field as maybe that's a sport I should have got excited in more. But I said to him, I like volleyball. And he has a comment for me off the air, but I can't read the comment on that. That's all I'll say. Also, because I'm a reverend, I can't even read the comment. So let alone being a reverend, I can't read the comment. And also for Facebook and everybody watching this, I can't read the comments. So that's all I'm going to say. But Daniel,
I have to say, I like women's basketball too in the Summer Olympics because they're good, right? Because
I always liked basketball.
It's good to watch.
I liked basketball, but volleyball, again, for certain reasons, I liked watching volleyball. I mean, I'm trying to be as PC because we've got the gentle force, we've got the powerful force watching, and there are other people that watch and periodically.
For certain reasons.
Trying to be PC, and I'm also, like I said, a reverend, and I know people are going to, use that, so I want to plead the fifth on that. But the Brute Force, before I get closing thoughts from everybody here, and obviously I'll certainly plug the SJC men's basketball win here also as well. But for you, is there anything in particular that you're watching when it comes to sports come 2022?
Yeah, obviously there's a bunch in 2022. I'll start with what the guys mentioned. Obviously I'm extremely excited for the NFL football playoffs. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there and how that goes. In regards to baseball, obviously as a Mets fan, I'm looking forward to seeing Max Scherzer pitch for us. I'm looking forward to seeing what this team could do. And Tom, I'm actually very interested in seeing what else they do because I think that there might be one more big move the Mets make, and I'm hoping it happens. Bring Chris Bryant to the New York Mets. That's something that I think is something that I want to watch out for because that would be absolutely huge if that were to happen. And even though right now I do think the Mets are a team to watch out for in the playoff picture in the National League as they stand, that would be something where we might even say they might be one of the favorites to win it. So I would be curious to see that. And obviously, Buck Showalter as manager, I'm definitely happy about that. So we'll see how that all works out. In the NBA, I'll just go and say, listen, Tom, the New York Knicks just showed me a little bit of something. They won a few games against some lowly teams, but then tonight they come out and they lay an egg, and they lose 95-80 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Randall doesn't play, and neither does Walker, but those two haven't actually been playing well the last couple of games. It's been the bench unit that's played well. But today,
the fourth quarter against the Pistons, I mean, it was pretty much.
Those guys were so bad they played the bench, and that's how they got back in the game. So, for the Knicks' sake in 2022, just stay relevant. Just be a team that we could say, all right, they have a chance to make the playoffs. And I don't have to come out here on the Sports Report with Patrick, Chris, especially Justin Gianelli, and be devastated about my New York Knicks. Just be relevant and give me something to talk about positively about the New York Knicks. That's one thing. And then I'll just, go on and say I wish the best for the Long Island Nets. I hope they win more games.
I saw the news also with the Nets in terms of postponements and such.
I hope they get back and they start winning some games. I obviously want to give a shout out to Level Up Basketball. I hope we continue to grow, continue to expand. We're doing a great job with our program right now. Obviously, many more wins for my Plainview JFK Hawks. I hope for that in 2022. And then the final thing, Tom, since I know we're going to talk about it right now, I got to give a shout out to my SJC Golden Eagles over in Long Island and Patchogue. They obviously just got a huge win against Baruch, and they certainly showed me something in that game where a lot of Skyline teams lost to them close, and they went out there and they took a big lead. Baruch came back and then they extended the lead again. And, thanks to, some big shots by Matt Hurd. Alec Tabata is unbelievable. This kid is a superstar waiting to happen in the Skyline. You just see he steals the ball. He plays defense. He blocks shots in the key moments. He's going to be a big-time player. And their role players and Spencer Malloy are doing a great job. And obviously, we can't say enough about that coaching staff with Mike McSloy, Gaudiezo, Mantesta, and our buddy Billy Heenan. So I want to give a shout-out to them. Big win against Baruch. 5-5 going into the new year, and I think, Tom, a lot of people didn't see this. I think they're going to do a lot better than we all thought, but I thought that they could do this, so I want to make sure that's clear.
Oh, I know you said that, and I know we certainly thought the Golden Eagles were going to have the kind of success that they had, and I certainly couldn't think of a better way going into 2022. Of course, watching our SJC Golden Eagles coming up here Monday against Centenary, and of course, you can follow the team on Instagram at SJCMBB, Twitter at SJC_MBB, and what a performance. I mean, they have a 17-point lead, 47-30. Baruch ties it, and the guys hang in there. It's the second straight game where, our guys give up a big lead, but we find ways. Alec Tabata made play after play defensively. I think his defense was more impressive than his 19 points. I mean, how about Timmy Hurt coming back? And Timmy Hurt on the stat sheet doesn't show up, but he made some huge plays defensively. And they did it without Jake Audiello and his flow. And obviously Spencer Malloy, made some big plays defensively for us. Tom Bell played a lot of minutes, most minutes he's played in a while. He had a huge performance for us. There were some big moments with this team. Obviously, Matt Hurt, you mentioned, made some big shots. Ryan McNeely was in there. Mark Roberts Jr., Anthony Ferrafino was in the lineup. He played some big minutes. This was a team performance. And give these guys credit because Baruch is a very tough place to play. John Alessi, Staten Island guy. Baruch teams do not win in that building. John Jay, with their good teams with Levy and Brower, couldn't win in that building in the York Center. So the fact that our guys had a lead throughout most of that game, gave up the lead, and were able to hang on, shows you the fact that this team believes in itself. And I was speaking with Matt Hurt, and Matt talked about the fact that this team is a we team. It's not it's we. Everybody's together here, and that's because of the leadership of Mike McSloy, the leadership of Jason Gaudiezo, Joe Mantesta, Billy Heen, also Gordon Scheuer. That's the guy, Brad, who brings, I think, the leadership that we need to hit some big shots for us, make some big plays also. He got trapped there with the press, but he hung in there, made a few shots at the free throw line. Those are things I'm watching. So listen, it was a great performance. Very happy, 5-5, but the momentum is clearly here with this team. We have big games coming up in the conference. Obviously, we've won 4 of our last 6, so really excited about all of that here. And ladies and gentlemen, we are now in 2022, so obviously I'd like to wish everybody here a very happy new year, a safe new year. I'm glad that if you've made us here your destination for 2021 going to 2022, I'm very grateful for your support, of course, of Sportswire Radio. So I want to turn it over to my guys here and let them celebrate the new year. So I want to go with Chris first. And Chris, I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, anything else you want to get out there? Obviously, I can't thank you enough for all that you've done. Plug anything else out there. And I can't thank you enough. And I can't thank you enough for putting up with us here, going from 2021 to 2022 with us.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Brute Force, Patrick. Had a great year with you guys, and I'm looking forward to next year, to this year now. The Talking Rivals show, the Liftoff Jets show. I'm looking forward to some new episodes coming up. I'm gonna have to run because I'm starting to get the calls now for New Year's. But
do what you gotta do, man. I'll talk with you.
We'll talk Sunday night.
You got it. Happy New Year, buddy. You got it. All right, so that means I'm down to 2. So Patrick, I'm going to give you the floor because I realize it's getting to that time. I even hear the fireworks ram. So I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, anything else you want to get off your chest, please do. And the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you for everything, Tom. It's been great. Here's to a happy and healthy 2022. Um, Not much. I wish I had like a resolution or something to break by the end of the month usually. But mostly it's just, well wishes for this year and, continued success for everyone, what they're doing and keep on plugging away with the Talking Rivals and keep on, thank you for all you do, Tom, and the Brute Force. It's great to hang out on Friday and Sunday and, just looking forward to the playoffs and for football and then hopefully baseball. And that's about it for now.
I really hope we have baseball. I
Yeah.
really enjoy, and one of the things I've done in the 3 years now, it's just about 3 years, 3 anniversaries in a few weeks, but I always love talking the sport of baseball. So I really hope that we have a baseball season because it would be very difficult, especially going through 2020.
That's a big void if the baseball season's gone.
It's tough. I mean, I can't do Five Towns College the whole year, so I need baseball to come back. I need something. So I mean, I can hang on for now. I've got stuff in the works. I've got wrestling, but to do a Friday night show and cover sports, it's tough. But I'm confident one day they'll get it right. But the Brute Force, I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Obviously, anything you want to share out there, anything you want to get off your chest, anything you want to plug. And I'm almost tempted to ask, do you have a game today for Plainview JFK? I'm almost tempted to ask, are you on the court at some point here today? But obviously, anything else on your mind, please get it off your chest. And I can't thank you enough for all that you've done for us now going into year 3 with us. And the floor is yours.
Yeah, Tom, thank you very much for another great episode of Friday Night Live, this time on New Year's Eve. Going 2 straight weeks, here on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve has definitely been awesome. Listen, there's a lot of places I'd like to be, but there's certainly not a place like the Sports Report that I enjoy as much. So I really thank you for being here and having this show because it's honestly awesome. All the great supporters, too. I want to thank you guys for coming on tonight and supporting us. It's certainly great. Some of the guys that I know, some of the guys Tom knows, all the support. We can't thank you enough. And this is also, too, us improving and doing bigger and better things in 2022 because 2021 was a great year for the Sports Report, but we're going to be even bigger and even better in 2022. So I'm excited for that as well. So for that, if you want to see some of my best highlights from 2021, you can certainly follow me on social media at BWeiss20 on Instagram, at BradWeiss20 on Twitter, and searching Bradley Weiss on Facebook. I definitely had a year, even though it's a COVID year, we all know we want to get past this COVID pandemic. But certainly the opportunities that I got in 2021 are going to last for a while here. And I can't thank I could go on and on about people I could thank about all these different opportunities that I got in 2021.
Thank you. So if you want to name people, I have a lot of names I have to thank.
I'm just going to say, thank you to everybody who's given me an opportunity, at being what I want to be. And that's a basketball coach and a mentor, somebody who could be a leader and somebody who people trust. And I think that's been huge for me in 2021. And I look to do that for many, many years and obviously continue to improve on that in 2022. And I can't thank you enough, Tom, for the Sports Report. This is 2 years now. We're going on our 3rd.
I definitely listen. It's the fact that, you from where we started in 2019 on a Skype call. I started on a Skype conversation. People ask me all the time on our station that have shows, and I tell them, well, I started out on a Skype call, and I was, my hands were fidgety, and we're holding the mic up, and then I got Rob Maraska calling me at 2:00 in the afternoon. We got people on, and the fact that we're here in 2020, obviously, we start working with a lot of our colleges, and then 2021, obviously, going into its Sportnarium, which turns into SportsWire, and now that we have streams, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're obviously on YouTube, also sportnarium.com/player. Obviously, I'd like to thank them, obviously, the team that has been behind Sportnarium for still allowing all of our content to air, like the Talking Rivals, like the Baseball Banter Liftoff Jets, because of Trevor Lakey and Steve Trendle and everybody there still that has allowed us to continue to be on that brand, be with that station. So the fact that they've supported us and still shown that they believe in content, again, like all these great shows that you hear from each and every weekend, I want to thank all of our shows, the Talking Rivals, the Liftoff Jets, the Baseball Banter. I want to thank the Rewind Wrestling Podcast from Parts Unknown. I want to thank also the Sit Down Marks. Can never not forget about the Sit Down Marks. I want to thank the Devil's State of Mind show. I want to thank the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. I want to thank the Grapple with Canada, the Wrestling with the Truth, the Universal Wrestling Podcast. I want to thank our DJs, DJ Dale, DJ Addy. I want to thank also the Pick and Play show, obviously with Leo and Gordo. I want to thank also all of the people that have come on the streams. Justin Gianelli, the Pinstripe Chronicles. Can never not forget about the Pinstripe Chronicles. Have to thank Bobby Tats, Donald Stewart, Rob, obviously Mother Superior. We're going to get a show from her starting next Sunday. So obviously cannot thank her enough. Ernest Dove. Ernest has been with us since 2019. Big shout out to Ernest Dove. Of course, Rob Marosco, our longest tenured analyst. Can never not forget about Rob Marosco because Rob has been with us. He's literally been with me almost every single show, every single incarnation. This guy has been with us. He's been loyal. He's everything. Yeah, we got to do it. We got to do it. I mean, God bless him in his heart because he's so been behind us. So I want to make sure I thank him and acknowledge him for everything that he's done, his support, his friendship over the past 3 years. I want to also thank, obviously, the Yak Attack, Jacob Bard that called in, Steve Saperstein, Anthony Finkel who calls in every Sunday, Joe Bostrom. I mean, Joey Bostrom, another guy that's been with us since the very beginning. I mean, there's a lot of people that I want to thank, and I also want to thank our colleges, Five Towns College, especially the athletics program. Of course, they have done so much for us. They have gone above and beyond the means. It's very hard to get supporters, and they've done it. They've made sure that we've stayed alive. I want to thank the men's basketball team at SJC, John Jay College, and the athletics program. Cannot thank them enough for the support. All of our minor leaguers that have still supported us. I also want to continue to thank a few of our other shows here that have been with us in the past. Obviously, the DFS Docket Show with Abe. Abe is called in. Can never forget about Abe. Abe, I mean, Uncle Abe, they call him. I mean, Abe he calls us, God bless him. The guy's a police officer in Detroit. He's got a podcast, and he finds time to make shows. Occasionally, we get something from him, so I cannot thank him enough for all of his support and friendship. And most importantly, though, I want to thank everybody that's tuned in here to SportsWire Radio, whether it's Sportnarium, whether it's Sportnarium.com. And I cannot thank you enough and how much it means to me that you stayed with me. Because, again, a lot of people do podcasts. I get advice all the time. People ask me, and they say, how do you do it? I said it was really from the grace of God, networking, all my community leaders in Staten Island and Brooklyn and Long Island. I can't thank them enough. And so many people, 13 countries were heard. We had a record number of listeners in one day. And people ask me, how do you do it with a podcast? People ask me, how many listeners do you have on the show? And I'll tell them, well, I've had, a lot. And I'll ask people how many they've had. And it's, very humble to have the support. I also want to thank the Piece of Business show, a work in progress. Cannot thank them enough. Obviously, Mike Lipinski, who's been with us in the past. I can't forget about Mike Lipinski and Brett Halper, and they've been big supporters. Mike Lipinski is a guy that's been a friend of ours for many, many, many moons. I cannot thank him enough for all of his support and so many different people here. And obviously, I hope that everyone here has a very safe and a very happy new year coming up, very healthy and prosperous. Also want to thank Randy Dillon. Randy Dillon has a show for us, I'd say about once a month. He's been on our live stream. So there's a lot of people, BC Hunter and Jay, I want to thank. So I can't thank everybody enough. I'm about to lose my voice here. But most importantly, what I also want to say is if you're listening to us on SportsWire Radio, sportnarium.com/player, please continue to follow us on Facebook at SportsWire Radio, Sports Report X, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Listen to the Talking Rivals show. Listen to Baseball Banter, Liftoff Jets, Ernest Dove shows, Sit Down Marks, A Work in Progress, Piece of Business, Sportnarium.com/player. Also want to break it here that next Wednesday, coming up here, 9 p.m. British Standard Time, we will once again have one world champion just days before his first title defense, Reynaldo, the top of the table. So Reynaldo has asked me to confirm it here, so we are going to do that. So I thank Reynaldo for watching, listening to us. He's very humbled by the fact that so many people from our side of the country continue to support him. So I want to thank him. Also, Ref Laura Kate, we're going to have on Monday night, also 8 p.m. British Standard Time. Coach Christy Herring will be on with us Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time of our Five Town Sound women's volleyball team. So a lot in the works, a lot in the pike. We've added YouTube. We're on Facebook now. We're on Twitter. We obviously got sportnarium.com/player. So I obviously, from the bottom of my heart, again, cannot thank everybody enough that has supported the brand. We're also working on our anniversary, our 3rd year anniversary here in a couple of weeks. So I will have more details for stuff with that. So like I said, from the bottom of my heart, I cannot thank everybody enough that has supported me and has believed in me. Because like I said, A lot of people do a podcast. They do it the first time they have a show, and all their friends listen. After that, nobody listens anymore. But yet every week, every time I put a show out there, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that listen to me, and I don't even know them. And I get messages from all people. As the station manager of Sportswire Radio, people ask me for advice all the time on how to do this, and I did it. So the fact that we're here, we're continuing to thrive. I can't thank everybody enough, and most importantly, I thank both you guys and the Brute Force. I thank your family. So, everybody, Happy New Year! Go enjoy the ball drop. Go enjoy fireworks. Get drunk, whatever you do. But obviously, if you're on sportnarrative.com/player, we'll have the sit-down marks on. They'll be on here in about 20 or so minutes. If you're just bored and want to hear some more content, I'll be back here Sunday night. 7:45. So this will also be the last Sunday night game of shows we're going to recap on Sportswire Radio. We'll do a playoff preview at some point in the middle of the week after the regular season. This is the last Sunday one, so we're going to do that way. We can figure out when to recap and all that stuff. We'll also do a Hall of Fame show in the coming weeks when the ballot is finalized, and we can kind of talk and dissect that. So we'll have a little bit of baseball talk here live. So obviously I want to put that out there. So I can't wait to be back here Sunday. I can't wait to be back here Monday and Wednesday, obviously with Reynaldo, obviously with Ref Laura Kate, also with, again, Christy Herring. I also want to shout out before I forget, because I'll get killed if I don't give them shout outs. I want to thank also our professional wrestlers that have come on here. I want to thank, obviously, Wildfire Nate Reese, the Asset Stephen Cross. They're here every single week. They want to come on. In fact, they listen. They actually message me and say, we heard the American Sports Talk. We listen to it. We find ways. We catch the replay. So I have to thank Wildfire Nate Reese, the Asset Stephen Cross. I also want to thank our wrestling companies in the UK. I would be killed if I did not mention them, because just like our colleges, how they've supported us, our wrestling companies in England have been big, big backers of us. I want to thank the LWF and Steve Bibby. I want to thank Odyssey Pro Wrestling and Liam Jackson and Ricky Halfpenny and Ian Okasa. They know who they are. That's their real names. I'm not going to tell you who they are. You can figure that out. Fill it in between the blanks. I want to thank Odyssey Pro Wrestling, the LWF. I want to thank ALP and KOW. Those three companies keep us alive. They give me content. They give me the people. They believe in this brand. They believe in this team. They believe in the fact what we do. So I would be remiss if I did not mention the LWF, KOW, Odyssey Pro Wrestling. I also want to thank the Natural Born Fighter, RP Davis, the Guiding Light, Isaiah Quinn, Nick Cutter. I want to thank, again, the Cumbrian Outlaw, Rick Marcus. I want to thank Lucy Simons. Lucy, God bless this young girl. She's been with us at least 6 or 7 times. So I want to thank her as well. Obviously, the unhinged Will Carter. Obviously, also the unforgettable Andre Decker. It's a long list, but those are the people that I want to thank. And if I got out of here and didn't mention them, I'd be remiss and I'd regret it. And also Joe Dell, the legendary Joe Dell of Sleepy Hollow, who's provided us some music. I want to thank him. Also Jeff Oakes, who gives us music, if you hear that, sometimes for our jingles and stuff throughout the show. I also want to thank Tyler Peters, Chris Belcher. Cannot go out without mentioning them. Piles, obviously the mayor of Canton. So long list of people. I obviously thank everybody for listening. I thank the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, Patrick Trotty for their support and hanging here for these shout-outs. It was a long list, but I have to do it. And also Joe Rosas and Josh Bailey would like to thank them as well. So everybody here, good night. God bless. I'm looking forward to a better 2022. I'm looking forward to being with everybody here Sunday night. And also John Gonzalez. If I didn't mention John Gonzalez, I got to mention one more person, John Gonzalez. John Gonzalez shares our stuff on Facebook. He DMs me. I got to mention John Gonzalez. Thank you for your support. Ron Laird as well, another one. So I think that's it. That's all of them I got out there. It's a long list. I can tell you we have a lot of supporters, but we'll be back Sunday night, 7:45 p.m. Eastern time. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio. Good night. God bless. And also thank all of our players that Brad had come in for YouTube. So thank them as well. So we'll be back here Sunday night. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. Good night. God bless. We'll be back here Sunday night. Okay, and